Thank you for coming to order. I would like to call to order the August 27th, 2019 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Devine.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Agajanian.
Present.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. Councilmember Garpetian, would you lead us in the flag salute?
With my honor. Please stand, place your right hand over your heart, and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for tonight's invocation by Reverend Casey McCarty, Dignity Health, Glendale.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, community leaders, and residents. Please bow your head with me in prayer. God of our city, God of our world, we are ever in need of your loving presence in our personal and professional lives and in all of our relationships. As we gather this evening as city leaders and citizens, may you bring a deep spirit of collaboration. May we appreciate the voice that each person in this room brings to our conversation this evening. We pray for our citizens that they would flourish and thrive in this city. We pray for our beloved leaders that they would have the wisdom in their decision-making and kindness in their actions. We also would like to acknowledge our first responders and our firefighters for keeping us safe amid the recent fire. Bless them for their courage and commitment to this city and to all of us. Amen.
Amen.
May we have your report?
The agenda for the August 27, 2019 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, August 22, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Presentation and appointments. The regular Housing Authority and City Council meeting for September 3rd, 2019 have been canceled. The next regular meeting are scheduled for September 10th, 2019.
Thank you. And the next item?
Next item would be appointment of board and commission members. B1 would be Diane M. Lambelote, Commission on the Status of Women.
Ms. Devine?
Not mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd love for it to be mine, but it isn't mine.
Oh, you had just Ms.
I
Long.
am very happy to submit the nomination. Ms. Lamberlot is a graduate of Loyola Law School, and prior to that, a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona, where she graduated magna cum laude. She's got many years' experience as a practicing attorney for a number of firms. And perhaps the most important, she's a previous member of the Commission on the Status of Women, and in fact was the chair from 2016 to 2017. She's really been part of so many organizations and civic activities, and I'm not going to list them, but I'm very pleased to nominate her. I think she's going to be a wonderful addition to the Commission on the Status of Women.
And we'll treat that as a motion.
Yep.
And is there a second?
Second.
Let's take roll call.
Councilmember Devine.
Yes.
Garpetian.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Agajanian.
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. And Ms. Lambelote is with us today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would
I
you like
appreciate
to
it.
say a few words?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I very much appreciate the appointment, and I was both honored and humbled to get this appointment, and I look forward to serving on the commission for as long as it works out.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very
We look forward
much.
to having you on the commission.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia, there's a special item.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, members of council, in order to receive a report from Chief Lanzas regarding the Colorado incident and for the council to take action on the emergency proclamation signed by the city manager on Sunday, it is at this time appropriate for the council to make a motion if I can read it into record, that the wildfire that has been named the Colorado incident, which began on August 25th, 2019, and crossed into the city of Glendale on August 25th, 2019, at approximately 1700 hours, and has affected the city of Glendale, was and is an emergency as defined in Government Code Section 54956.5, and that the City Council may discuss and take action with respect to that emergency. Given the need to act immediately to set appropriate emergency services into action and to respond to the immediate peril and continued likelihood of further damage, and for the ability for the city to receive reimbursement to the extent legally feasible, it is of great urgency that the council consider the matter of proclaiming a local state of emergency at this time. That motion would need to be adopted by 2/3 vote for the council to add that item to the agenda.
Okay, will someone make that motion?
I would like to move the item.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes, now that it's on the agenda, Chief Lanzas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Silvio Lanzas, your fire chief. I'd just like to briefly tell you a little bit about the incident and its current status and the need for the support for the proclamation should we have downstream effects from this incident. As was just previously mentioned, on Sunday, August 25th at approximately 4:11 p.m., Los Angeles City Fire Department responded to a vegetation fire south of Highway 134 near Highway 2. The area is a brush area just south of the freeway. The fire was fueled by heavy fuels in a open space area. Due to the wind, the prevailing wind of the late afternoon, the fire spotted across Highway 134 and impacted a north-facing aspect along the freeway on the north side. That fire quickly grew in size rapidly due to the fuel and the topography of that slope, and at about 1600 hours impacted the city of Glendale. The city boundary essentially runs the ridge line of the mountain range that's just north of Highway 134, parallel to Glen Oaks Canyon. Upon cresting into the city of Glendale, I was at the command post. We made a decision to enter in a unified command with Los Angeles City Fire Department and to fully engage in the incident upon it reaching into our city. We evacuated about 100 homes along Glen Oaks Canyon between Mount Carmel and Bywood. The fire eventually was caught on the north-facing aspect on the downrange side of the mountain range that runs parallel to the freeway. We were able to contain the fire at 45 acres. 5 of those acres are in the city of Glendale. We have been committed throughout the incident, 24 hours a day, with firefighters from Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County, obviously Glendale firefighters, and some surrounding area C fire departments. It was a great team effort. It was a collaborative effort on all the agencies involved. We had multiple city departments that were and continue to be involved. Obviously, our police department was instrumental that evening in the evacuations, and a great partnership that we have with them. Our parks department was instrumental in opening Verdugo Park, which we used as a base camp, which was where I saw you, Mr. Mayor, that evening, and Public Works for the traffic measures for some of the closures that we had. I'm proud to report that at 16:30 or 6:30 this evening, we are moving the incident into patrol status. We called it 100% contained at 3 p.m. today. However, there are some effects that could impact those homes along Glen Oaks Canyon on what would be the south side of Glen Oaks Canyon between Mount Carmel and Waltona Street. Those are the areas that were most impacted from the fire backing down the hillside. This is a typical fire. It's a typical fire that runs topography, and then we were fortunate that it started at 4 p.m. and that the heat of the day was already past us. As the evening grew on, the fire slowed and gave us an opportunity to get up there and what we call catch it. Firefighters worked hard. We did have one injury to a Glendale fire captain yesterday that slipped down the mountain coming down and injured his back. I spoke to him today. He's in good spirits. He feels good. He thinks it's just a muscle strain and hopes to be back to work next week. That's the end of my report. I would like to also say that Glen Oaks Elementary was obviously right in front of this fire's path on the opposite side of Glen Oaks Canyon. We were in contact with superintendent and her staff throughout the incident. We did make the recommendation that evening to keep the school open the following day, but recommended inside activities only for those children at Glen Oaks Elementary School, and they were also a great partner. So I'm available for questions.
Questions? Mr. Agajanian?
Did you figure out what was the cause of this fire, your colleagues?
So the fire, because it started in Los Angeles City, is being investigated by their arson unit. There's a lot of rumors out there, and what I will say is that none of them are probably factual. They are investigating it. They are looking at multiple leads and following up on them, but unfortunately right now it's still under investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It was extremely hot weather. It was extremely difficult dealing with the traffic control. As we all know, the 2 freeway and the 134 freeways were shut down to give you access. There have been some bizarre rumors out about the cause. At one point, there were some explosions attributed to the cause. My secretary at work asked me, is it true that that land is owned by a business partner of Donald Trump, and that someone's getting revenge? So it's really it's out there, but we need to know that this is LA Fire Department's arson investigation. Well, we shouldn't say arson. Is it arson?
It is. It's their arson unit that's investigating it. Yes.
And we'll hear what it is. But the important thing is, aside from the injury to our captain coming down that very loose hillside, we don't have any injuries or loss of property. So we hear nothing but good things about the police department. Excuse me, police and fire department. Both of you were handling that. And it certainly, if you could just get a snippet of the accolades on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, I think you would be proud of the way the community, most of the community, sees the work that you and your men and women have done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would, if I could, just like to add that I'm extremely proud of the community. I'm extremely proud of our firefighters. I'm extremely proud of the work that they did. And a little shameless plug that it's not too late to provide the brush clearance. Those homes that haven't provided the brush clearance, it's not too late. I do encourage them to do so before 10 a.m. on these hot days. But the brush clearance really gives us an opportunity to get in there and save these homes. Without the brush clearance, it puts us as firefighters in danger, and obviously the potential of losing our homes within our city, which is not something we want to do, obviously.
Ms. Devine.
Chief, was that ever a problem, an issue in fighting this fire?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Council Member Devine, there are some areas of this canyon that are problematic. The majority of the homeowners have done their part, but there's some topographic features in that canyon that are just difficult. There is some overgrown brush in the canyon itself. As we know, it's canyons. There's never been a good fire in anything that ends with a canyon. They're not good, right? One way in, one way out usually. 2-lane highways or 2-lane roadways often. There are some clearance issues that we're following up on within the canyon, but for the most part, I would like to focus on the great work that our community's done on helping us provide the clearance. In majority, 84% was what I reported a couple weeks ago of our high fire hazard areas.
Well, thank you to you and the department. Fantastic job, and I know everyone in the community that was affected and not affected are grateful to all of you.
Thank you.
Ms. Beers, would you like to tell us what the emergency order is that you signed?
Oh, yes. The emergency order pertains to what Mr. Garcia read into the record earlier, based on the emergency at hand and our need to be able to recover some of the costs associated with this incident. We thought it best to move forward with that declaration and seek council approval at this scheduled meeting, sir. So with that, if council would like to move that motion to move forward.
There's 2 resolutions, one ratifying the emergency proclamation, another one a resolution to the Director of State Office of Emergency Services requesting concurrence of the local emergency. Those are the 2 before you, and they've been presented to you as part of your materials.
I'll move the items.
Does it need to be read in verbatim or just a?
That's a good point, actually, Mr. Mayor. Let me read the two resolutions so they're in the record. Do you have a copy of this, Aram?
I do not.
Okay. So the first resolution is a resolution ratifying the proclamation of the Director of Emergency Services declaring a local emergency. And the second resolution is a resolution to the Director of State Office of Emergency Services requesting concurrence of a local emergency and designating the city manager as the city's authorized representative.
Do we need motion?
You can move both at the same time.
I move both resolutions.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Chief, I understand you have another item before us and that you'd request priority, and that is item 7A. Would you read 7A into the record, please?
7, adoption of ordinance. 7A, an ordinance amending sections to the fireworks law, Glendale Municipal Code, Section 8.16.010.
This was introduced by Mr. Agajanian, so according to our protocol, we'll give him the opportunity to make the motion.
I make the motion for 7A.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Let's go to the next item.
4 would be consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or audience requesting a separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed.
Mr.
I'd
Quintero.
like to move the consent items, but I would like to pull 4D.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Please read 4D.
Director of Public Works and Community Services and Parks regarding Glendale Los Angeles Garden River Bridge Project. D1, resolution appropriating $18,750,000.
Mr. Quintero.
I wanted to pull it because I'm so happy we worked on this so long ago, and just the fact that we're getting to the point where we're appropriating monies for this project, I think is fantastic. And I think the public should know what it is that we're doing and what they'll be able to enjoy in the next few years.
Go ahead, Mr. Amrani, if you can give a brief presentation on this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. This is a project that is basically 320 feet of a curvilinear bridge that's going to go over the LA River. It's going to have shaded seating, viewing pods, benches. It's landing right now from Ferraro in LA, across from Ferraro soccer fields, and in Glendale from the Riverwalk area at Flower Street. We have this PowerPoint presentation that actually shows the location. And if we go to the next slide, please. So this is the scope of work that I was talking about. This was based on, the design was worked out with many community meetings, and there were several different alternatives that were discussed with the community, and the final design that was chosen is basically this design that has the area for seating, and this one shows the aerial perspective. There's another version of it that shows the bottom perspective, but it's going to provide amenities for bikers, for joggers, and there's going to be a bike trail on it, and it's a great addition to our city, basically.
Well, and specifically for me, it opens up a giant park, Griffith Park. It means that Glendale residents can hike there, ride their bikes. And as Mr. Amarani pointed out, I hadn't thought about it, it's going to be a great wildlife back and forth between Griffith Park and the rest of Glendale. Hopefully that's going to go well. But Anyway.
Just don't run into P-42.
I was thinking about P-42 specifically, that mountain lion, that famous Hollywood mountain lion. But anyway, it's great. I'm just really excited. Like I say, this is something that we talked about many, many years ago. So congratulations to Glendale. So I'll move 4D.
Second.
Before we,
Let me go to Ms. Devine.
I just wanted to add that I see Assemblywoman Friedman's deputy here in the audience, and I just wanted to say that she procured or donated a lot of funding, or got a lot of funding for this bridge from Sacramento, so we owe her a bit of thanks for this as well. And I remember going to all of these meetings on the design of this, and I just love it. And thank you for bringing this this photo, these drawings to us tonight. It was good to refresh our memories, those of us that were involved in all those meetings. Thank you. Excellent.
Mr. Carpetian.
yes, I just want to echo my colleagues' comments about Ms. Friedman, our Assembly member. I think she was the author of this bill. It was $20 million bill, and also they had a press conference at that time after the bill went through, and we participated, myself, Ms. Devine and Councilman Alexander. We went to the press conference for this bridge, and it's great when you stand on the other side and you see how close it is, but you cannot get to it from either side. You know that this would be a great addition. So with that, I'll second your. Oh, there's a second already. So
Very good. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine.
Yes.
Carpetian.
yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Agajanian.
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item.
Next item will be city council and staff comments.
I just want to lead off with a short statement to the public that we all, each and every one of us on the city council, are deeply saddened by the traffic accident that occurred last week involving a young boy attempting to cross Verdugo Road to access Glorietta Park. The newspaper reports indicate that the driver of the car that struck the young boy was driving while intoxicated with a blood alcohol level of 0.30. Legally drunk is 0.08, so this individual was almost 4 times the legal limit. That is not an excuse and does not mean that the city council will sit by and say, well, it was just a reckless drunk driver that caused this. There's nothing we could do. I have had discussions with our chief of police, and he also is very keenly aware, more so than council is, on the details and nuances of this traffic accident. He assured me that in conjunction with the city manager's office and our director of public works, we'll be working together to review the traffic controls which currently exist at that location, as well as what potential additional traffic controls may be placed based on the warrants and the regulations of the traffic, what's called the highway design, the traffic control guidebook. There are certain rules and regulations which must be followed. They will be coming back to us with a report as soon as they are able, but I wanted the public to know that the council, each and every one of us, has heard from you. We're deeply saddened by this. We don't want to have any injuries or, God forbid, loss of life due to any additional traffic design issues or drunk drivers. The chief of police will be, his comments and his findings will be very strongly taken into account when he comes back to us with a discussion and recommendation. This will be an agendized item at a future meeting, and we can get into the details on what the findings were and what the traffic control suggestions may be going in the future. And I will go back to my colleagues now. Mr. Carpetian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start off by nominating Mr. Albert Abkarian for Civil Service Commission to come for a vote in a couple of weeks. Also, this great Glendale is a eventful city, and I'm going to mention a few of the events that I went to, and I know most of my colleagues went to many of them. And Wednesday, August 21st was GST's first day of school. My wife and I attended Wilson Middle School's opening. It was a red carpet for the first time. They rolled the red carpet for the kids to come in. It was a great event. We also had a Manufacturers International Connection Breakfast, first one in Glendale, if I'm not mistaken, which created opportunity and information and networking opportunities for people who want to do business overseas. On the 22nd, Thursday, we attended the 25th anniversary of the Gardens, which is a senior housing project, one of the projects that City of Glendale and Sroptimist, it was Sroptimist idea many years ago, and Sroptimist International, if I'm not mistaken, and City of Glendale have also invested in that project, and it's a great project. It serves the seniors, and they were very happy. It was a great celebration. Also, on Friday, the 23rd, we had the Valley of the Stars Gala Award Ceremony, which was done by the Valley Economic Alliance, which was hosted by them. It was a great event as well. On Saturday, we had, it's a party for healthy hearts and minds in Central Park. It was great. Police department was there, fire department was there, and we got to practice on our hands-only CPR. They were teaching people how to do CPR with hands only. On Sunday, we had the ANCA's Award Appreciation Gala dinner, as well as Armenian Bone Marrow Donor Registry, which both of them are great events, and one was in Hollywood, one was in Glendale, so we had to live in the middle of one in order to get to the other one. And there are a few things I want to bring up besides the Glorieta, which is on Verdugo, and coaching AYSO for over a decade. We used that park many times, and every time we crossed that street, it's a challenge. You have to be very careful. And we had the same situation close to Verdugo Woodlands Elementary School, south of the school. People were crossing the street, and we didn't even have a crosswalk, and I asked the city management, and they installed the crosswalk with flashing lights. It helped a lot, and hopefully we won't have any issues in that part, because Verdugo is a very fast traffic, and unfortunately, especially in the morning, everybody's busy and they're trying to get to work, I guess, and after they drop off their kids, they just gun it, and it's everyone has to be very careful. Also, I received several calls from residents and also the Armenian St. Mary's Church, which is on Chestnut between Central and Brand. They were asking to have a study done on traffic and the speed, and they were asking for speed bumps. I said, you know what, speed bump, there's a process that everyone has to go through in order to have a speed bump. First is the application, then the city puts the traffic control, checks the traffic, the speed. If it's over a certain percentage of the speed limit, then they have to get signatures of the tenants or the residents of that street. So if you can take a look into it, I would really appreciate that. Also, I want to get not an agendized item, but if you can get a report via email or what have you, or briefing on the soccer field projects that we had with GUSD, where we are, because it's taking too long and people are anxious, they're calling and so what happened to it. I know we allocated the funds, but if you can get a report, I would appreciate that as well. And also, speaking of churches, we had a motion in a second on digital signs for faith-based organizations. I don't know what happened to that, and if you can get a report on that as well.
It's on our list.
It is on our list? Okay.
To come back.
And finally, my understanding is that we have 2 fire trucks retiring. I don't know what the situation of these trucks are, or the status of them are, if they're going to be, because I know when they retire, we still use them for a year or two for our academy, fire academy, and then they will completely retire them. If that's the case, I want to make a motion to, if possible, donate them to one of our sister cities in Mexico, and if they are willing to accept it. If not, we'll decide what to do with them afterwards. Maybe we can, if they don't accept it, then we can maybe send them to Armenia. But I want to offer them to our sister cities in Mexico, these 2 fire trucks. With that, Mr. Mayor, I think, and also I want to give a big shout out and kudos to our firefighters. They did a great job this weekend, and at one point it was in Glen Oaks Canyon, and we had some voluntary evacuations, so that was lifted very quickly due to their great work. And I want to thank them as well. We are all grateful. With that, Mr. Mayor.
There's 2 motions pending, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, members of
Yes.
the council, just wanted to circle back on the request related to the 2 fire trucks. I have to find out from our staff. I know we're coming before the council in a few weeks to request to purchase 2 new fire trucks. Not sure if, like you said, if they're going to be placed in reserves for a period of time, or are we kind of at the end of life in terms of our purposes here in the city of Glendale. If the council would like to have a report come back on that item, I would need a second from another council member.
I'll second it.
For us to bring it back.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. And do we need a second for my nomination? You don't need a second for the nomination, right?
No.
No, okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anything left in the
Pretty
city?
much covered.
Ms. Devine?
Been to all those, and everything was great. It was a busy weekend.
Yes, it was. Mr. Agajanian?
I was on Verdugo Road a little bit after when the accident happened. This 13 years old kid was walking with 15 years old, his brother walking across the street. This is where, since I don't have a picture for it, however, this is a point when Verdugo Road separates from Pinata Boulevard, a little bit south of that intersection on Verdugo Road. And I realized after the accident, of course, that when you go south on Verdugo, the street curves, like moves, and it's a curve there. And when you come from north to south, it's very hard. There is a crosswalk, pedestrian crosswalk. But the driver should be careful because when it turns, it's so close to that walkway. And these 2 kids, they came from the park. I'm glad to say this is unfortunate, this accident happened, but his 15 years old brother, nothing happened to him when they were walking together. And I was there a little bit after the accident happened. I have to report that lots of officers were there measuring and trying to figure out what happened. And Lieutenant Carver, I guess, was there, that he was supervising what they were doing, and I want to appreciate their work because they were there. This accident happened, if I'm not wrong, 7:35 p.m. On Friday, and they were there until after midnight. So it took so long to figure out what's happening by measuring the street and how far, what happened, because there was a car stopped. One of the dangerous things to do is when one car stops on second lane. Second means the far from the middle of the street. The car stops and tries to stop the other driver, which was driving, and the drunk person, 63 years old guy, which, as has been mentioned by the mayor, his alcohol level was 0.3, which is almost 4 times higher than legal limit. And they were living very close by. These kids, they were living very close by. There is a store there that he was telling me. Both kids, they were such a great kids, very polite. Every day they would say hello and goodbye, which rarely you see from kids these days. I mean, you may see it, but this store owner was explaining to me that how polite these two kids are. And I felt so sorry for the parents that they have to go through this. However, the next issue which I want to speak to today, I'm very glad to see that investing basically we are investing in affordable housing. A little bit earlier, a few hours ago, we have approved 2 projects. Tobin Ward's building, and which we are trying to buy, or we are in process of buying, and the other one, Pacific, I guess, Gas and Electric, however, by the freeway. I know where there is, but I forgot it's Pacific Gas and Electric? Okay.
AT&T.
AT&T. I know it's one of these utility companies, but however, we are buying another building for affordable housing. I have mentioned before, we are way behind in having affordable housing for our residents of Glendale. We have, since 1975-6, we have only 1,245 affordable units. And there are approximately 200,000 people are living in Glendale. Burbank has 103 or 106,000 residents, and they have 1,600 affordable housing all during the same period of time. And Pasadena, with population of 143,000 people, they have approximately 2,000 affordable housing. So we are way behind. We have to do whatever we are doing fast. And these 2 properties, which will be turned to affordable housing, and we need future properties. We need to construct new and more affordable housing. We have to catch up. Why we have to be so behind than Burbank and Pasadena? This is what I was discussing and raising this issue since the day I came in. And I will continue to do that. Because longtime residents of Glendale, they have to leave the city because they can't afford to be here. And some, they leave their kids and grandkids here and they go far from here. So we have to help residents of Glendale by having more affordable housing. And some who cannot afford the rent, 1-bedroom unit now is like $1,500 to $2,000. The rent monthly is up to $1,500 to $2,000. And we have to create a situation to balance the situation, to have more affordable housing, and to alleviate the pain and suffering which our long-time residents are going through by living the city which they like, the city which they love, and they participated in helping this city to be the city which now we all say that this is one of the best cities around here. So why they have to leave by not creating more affordable housing in this city? So that's why I'm glad that we bought the 2 properties, or we are in process of it, and I'm hoping that in the future we will continue to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have 2 other items. Briefly, this afternoon, actually this morning, we dedicated a new garden adjacent to the Glendale Public Library. What's so special about the garden, you say? Well, it's a drought-tolerant garden, and it is not just drought-tolerant, but it is being irrigated with recycled water. So, for those of you who say the Greener Glendale plan is on the bookshelf collecting dust, you are wrong. We're moving forward. It's really quite nice. We're going to be having a coffee cube, a coffee kiosk outside the library, and we installed a new piece of art inside the Glendale Public Library. It was a great addition to our downtown arts and entertainment district. The last thing is I'd like support from my colleagues. A little bit of background. Oftentimes we are invited by different community groups to attend and perform functions at their events, which is a good thing. But the bad thing is not all of us are invited all the time. Sometimes only 1 or 2 council members are invited. And I'm talking about educational foundations, other institutions, charities. And I can't tell you the amount of discord that it brings to this city council when we learn that only 1 person was invited out of the council to attend an event. So what I'd like to do is bring back a request that we develop a set of guidelines that we present to the public, to anyone that has an event and you're interested in inviting a council member, with certain protocols, such as if you invite 1 council member, you should invite all of them. If you invite someone to speak, at least the mayor should be one of those speakers. And I'll be, by the time this gets through, I'll be done as mayor, so I'm not trying to toot my own horn. If there's a commendation to be given, it should be given by either the mayor. If not the mayor, then the mayor pro tem. Because things are getting out of control here. You might not see it. It might look like we're a well-run organization. But when it comes to these events, there's a lot of discord that can be cleared up with some simple rules that we publish and disseminate to the public. Would someone support that?
I'll support it. My invitation to Buckingham Palace, not... but,
see what I mean? So,
no, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. It'll give us something to talk about. And oftentimes it's not the council member's fault. They get an invitation, they show up and say, wow, well, where's everyone else? Well, we didn't invite them, or apparently they're not invited. So this will hopefully clear up and set a path going forward. I'm not talking about a municipal code amendment. I'm just talking about simple guidelines so everyone knows what the proper way is. That goes, hopefully will go a long way towards bringing some accord to the council. Are there any staff comments at this time? You're smiling. Okay. Let's move to the next item.
Next would be community event announcement and the 3-minute general public comments.
Thank you. I have several cards. Pamela Vera. Hello.
Hello. Okay. My name is Pamela Vera. I live in Azusa. I visit Glendale, and I was invited here by some friends tonight to share their views and my view on the, I guess there's a Planned Parenthood that is either coming here or something, but I'm just here to say I don't think that you should do that. I understand that it brings a lot of money, but that's just not appropriate. It is, it's blood money. And I know we don't live in a time when we are really encouraged to talk this way because, we all say we have to do what we all want to do, what makes us feel best. But I do know that babies have a voice, even in the mother's womb, and that you may not hear the voice, but God does. And we're going to do what we want to do, but I just want to encourage you tonight to remember this. Even if you have no authority to say what, yes or no, I want to encourage you that what you do matters. What you do matters. And we can abort the visions of God, but we need to be careful because our visions can be aborted too. Maybe these babies are inconvenient, or maybe we feel we don't have any other way to take care of them. But I want to tell you something. It's a sad, sad society that looks to murder as a way to solve a problem. First, inconvenient little babies. What's next? Inconvenient elders. I know in the past there have been a whole group of people who have been considered inconvenient, and they were all gathered together in several societies, and they were aborted as well. We know that happened, but see, they had a voice. But babies, they've been gathered and put in dumpsters, and their little bloody bodies have been forgotten. But I'm their voice, and I say in the name of Jesus, abortion is wrong.
Thank you. Mike Mohill? Mike Mohill.
That's a tough one to follow.
I can put your card away.
I'm sure you could. Good evening, Mayor Najarian and council members. My name is Mike Mohill. It's time to terminate our contract with CalPERS, the corrupt agency that the Glendale taxpayers are on the hook, guaranteeing 7.5% on their failed investments. In 2019, the pension obligation to the corrupt agency CalPERS for Glendale is $2,291,142,620. In 2015, just 4 years earlier, the pension obligation were $1,425,000,000, a difference of $866,142,620. Council members, in July 2019, you approved again sending taxpayers' money in the amount of $41,099,374 to the corrupt pension system, CalPERS. Last year, you also sent Glendale taxpayers' money in the amount of $40,847,000. Prior to 2018, on average, council was sending CalPERS $20 million annually right off the top from Glendale Water and Power, the reserve fund, and not from the surplus fund, in violation of the city charter. Last year, Glendale Police Department chaired the Yes on Measure S Committee to raise a minimum of $30 million annually in new tax money to pay for their pay raises and retirement pension benefits, as well as for the fire departments, city managers, and general employees. I respect our police officers, but I do not agree with the way they retire and the way other CalPERS union workers retired. These workers retired with 60%, 70%, or 90% of their last year's salary for life.
They deserve it.
Their union bosses do not care about the finances of this city. I'm sorry. All they care about is making more money and bigger pensions upon retirement. Before you tonight is $1 million in salary increases for Glendale police officers, for which the city does not have the money. Councilman Paula Devine and Councilman Vartan Garpetian, you are both up for re-election in March 2020. Should you choose to approve this pay raise, I will inform my readers of your Glendale Community newsletter that you care more about the welfare of our overpaid city employees than the Glendale residents, and please vote for these two people out of office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill. Lenore Solis.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as Ms. Solis makes her way up, I just want to make one point of clarification just for the viewing audience. Our total net pension liability for the city of Glendale is $580 million. Just to have that point clarified, it's not $2 billion, it's $580 million. And the Measure S funds, as you are aware, has nothing to do with any of the items that you are voting on tonight. It actually had something to do with an item that you voted on this afternoon, which was for housing, but not for this evening. Just clarifying.
Thank you. Ms. Solis.
My name is Lenore Solis, and I'm a resident of Glendale. I'm here tonight as a board member of Glendale Beautiful. We are the nonprofit that docents at Casa Adobe. As you know, this nonprofit has been around since the 50s. And I know that we always invite all of you. I thought the policy was that if we sent the invitation to the mayor, then everybody got it. That's not the way it is anymore? Okay. So this Saturday, we are having for the first time at the Casa Adobe play music on the porch. That is something that started in 2016, where someone decided, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea if we all just stopped for a minute and listened to some music? And it took off. It's happening in all 26 countries all over the world, and it's going to happen here in Glendale for the first time. So this Saturday, August 31, from 2 to 4:30 at the Casa Adobe that is located at 1330 Dorothy Drive, Glendale, California. You can come and play music. We're going to have beer and wine, refreshments, and it's going to be a really nice day at a beautiful, I don't know if any of you have not been to the park. It's just so beautiful. So if you've never been there, this is your opportunity to come. I invite all of you equally. Everyone is invited. City council members, mayors, staff, citizens, everybody. And I'm done with that topic. And on my own personal note, I would like to say that in this environment, when there's so much hostility towards our first responders, both blue and fire, police and fire, I don't think there's any amount of money that is too much to pay these people to risk their lives every moment of the day. I mean, come on. They can't even live many times in the area where they patrol, because if somebody sees them, it could cause harm to themselves and their families. So I think if you don't understand what it's like to be somebody who's out there protecting our city, and we are very fortunate. I know I am truly blessed that I live in this city because I have a business in LA, and believe me, it's not the same. I don't think there's any amount of money for these people to get out there every day and risk their lives. So if they get out there every day for 25 or 30 years and do it, and they're going to retire with 60, 70, 80% of their pension, God bless them, and thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solis. Okay, thank you. You can send your appreciation to Ms. Solis privately. She's on social media, and she's in the back of the room as well. The next speaker is Nahid La Sierra.
Good evening, everyone, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Nahid Lashura, and I'm a resident of Glendale for the past 10 years. I live on Mountain Street on the stretch from Lasagna to Ethel and Royal. My attendance here today was prompted by the sad accident of the 12-year-old boy. We have had the same issue about traffic and unsafe drivers, speeding drivers through our block, because that section of Mountain Street doesn't have any speed bumps, no signs, no nothing. We have had several accidents. Car flipped over on their top. We had to pull the driver out. We have had a car that hit neighbor's car. The car jumped and hit our car. Several cars totaled in one accident, and just because the kid fell asleep for a second and couldn't control. There's a really bad curve around the Mountain Street, and that's causing a lot of accident. Pretty much all the residents that have been on that block, their cars have been hit at some point. The car that is parked on the street, most of them don't have the mirror, because it's always just being hit by fast drivers going through that part of the street. We constantly have been asking for some traffic measures on that stretch, but unfortunately we haven't received any results so far. In the past, we were insisting on speed bumps, and I know the last result that we got, or the last answer that we got from the city traffic engineer, was that speed bumps weren't feasible in that stretch. So now I'm here representing the whole neighborhood, and we decided to take turn so that we can attend every meeting. So you're gonna see us a lot. You're gonna see me a lot until we see a result. But we are asking for something. We really don't want to have a fatal accident or a life-threatening accident for the city to pay attention to that stretch of mountain. It is really dangerous. Speeding drivers are frustrated going over speed bumps throughout all mountain, and then when they get to that stretch, they really take off 80 miles, 90 miles an hour, and We're just asking for a new traffic study so that we can come up with a solution that will work for that stretch, that will be feasible for the the fire truck drivers going through that part, and also safe for residents. Maybe one of those solar panels that says slow down or show the speed, at least something that would prompt drivers to just drive a little slowly through that stretch. I would really appreciate your attention to that portion of Mountain Street. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I could ask a question of our...
Yes, Mr. Vine.
Is that the stretch where I was asking for the yield sign? For the going through the pass, where the island is?
Right. It's close
from
to it.
Lasagna to Ethel? Comes around that curve, and there's the little alley, and I was asking for some sort of a sign to alert drivers to slow down because someone could be going into that little left turn.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Devine, yes, it's very close to that area. And we are looking at putting those cautionary signs, including some raised markers in that area.
Okay.
Mr. Quintero.
I understand there's an east-west traffic plan that's going to be worked on in the coming weeks or months. Is that?
A traffic plan?
Yeah.
In terms of an overall plan?
Maybe is it a development plan or traffic? The community plan.
The east-west plan, the community plan, that is something, once we finish the South Glendale Community Plan, which is still in litigation at this time, once we've completed that, that is our next area in terms of the east-west plan and for us to study that. But we haven't come before the City Council to get approval to move forward with that as of yet. We've been in discussions, and Mr. Lanzafame's giving me the look.
There is a grant to do some traffic study, but it is confined more to the major arterials, and we'll be looking at traffic as part of our circulation element. I don't know that we will get into streets. We'll do that more on a one-on-one basis.
Okay, because on this whole topic, I use this street constantly as I come down Greenbrier, and absolutely, I mean, there's major speeding going on, but also when you look at that sort of section of town, the two left lanes as you approach the college, those two left lanes.
The left-hand turn?
Yeah, I didn't think that was a good idea when it happened years ago, and I continue to think we're better off with two lanes going directly to the freeway. So is that something that has been brought up or is going to be studied, or?
That has been brought up before the City Council. It's not something that we were going to restudy. The staff had already studied the traffic flows and the implementation of the two left lanes going on to Verdugo. In meeting with the Ross Moines Homeowners Association a number of times in the last year, they have made a request as well in terms of this area, especially Mountain, Ethel, as well as what the speaker brought up at this time in terms of their interest and understanding the traffic flows better and figuring out ways to slow traffic down. It's one of the items that Mr. Amrani and I have spoken about, and I had put him in touch with Mr. Sulian from the area as well. I'm not sure if they've had an opportunity to meet as of yet, but it's something that we will look at and we'll provide some information to the City Council and seek for your direction in terms of if you'd like to move in a particular direction.
I just think it encourages cut-through traffic instead of Verdugo. I think there's a tendency to either get on Ethel or Mountain.
And I have another comment that I failed to alert those, but I also went to Mr. Amani about Royal and the fact that a lot of, that's also a raceway. And as I understand it, drivers were passing on the right, even though we have the white, what are those called? They're made, say again? Edge line. So vehicles are passing, and they had accidents there. So we're going to be putting up signs on Royal, no passing on the right or no passing on this lane, on the shoulder. So we're trying step by step to solve these problems. So, and I want to thank Mr. Amani for listening and taking action. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jack Shervanian.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We're actually all here today. Thank you very much, first of all, for acknowledging the 12-year-old boy accident. We are very saddened. So we all live on Oakwood and Verdugo. We all know that area, as you know, half of the council members said, that it's pretty much a speedway. There is a crosswalk there currently with a light, which was a very, very bad idea, which pretty much I think completely just went the wrong way, because kids are pressing that button and thinking that it's going to stop traffic, and then as they continue to walk, these people are not stopping for them. So we do appreciate that there was a step taken to put a crosswalk, but once again, putting these signs, putting warning signs, that's not doing anything. We need to stop the actual traffic. We have mothers and families all here with kids. We have probably 25 kids just between us alone. And I'm sorry? Yeah, and then of course, Levon's brother is here as well. The 12-year-old's brother, 16 years old, luckily nothing happened. We can say nothing happened, but he witnessed his brother get hit by that car. Forget the fact that he was a drunk driver. The fact is, he was good enough to drive, stop at red lights, green lights to get to that intersection. Somebody stopped and just he continued on, correct? So that could have happened to anybody. But the kids had no safety net, right? They pressed the button, one person stopped, the kids crossed, and unfortunately he got hit. On September 7th, we have AYSO going to start up again. So every week, you have 4 teams an hour from 8 to 5 p.m., 60 teams plus siblings every hour. That's 400 to 500 kids every single Saturday. So you're talking 4,000 to 5,000 kids in the next 3 months, plus the family members. It's a lot of speeders on that street. I believe that particular day when that happened, they gave, City of Glendale did a speed trap or whatever it was, about 200 some tickets. Out of the 200 tickets, I can almost be confident and say probably none of them learned their lesson. Speeding and getting a ticket, we need to stop. We just need to stop the traffic. His brother right now is in, I believe, county right now in the neuroscience department, and we don't even know what's going on. We all feel for the kids. I mean, just take a moment and just think of a 12-year-old. It could be your 12-year-old. When I got that phone call, they were all on the streets helping, trying to figure out, you know, what's going on. So if we can please get it on the agenda, we would really appreciate it, so we can get this going. And one more thing, that paper that was passed around, that's the type of light that is needed, one that actually stops it. So we need the light that goes over the street, and it will stop everybody from driving. Because coming around that corner, it's just too fast. Nobody sees it. And then when you have bus that stops over there, it's even worse, because the kids think that they can go and then another car passes by. Every single one of us have almost been hit. And I myself live right at that corner with, once again, all of us, and we've witnessed at least 3 to 4 accidents where we'd have to go and but, you know, attend to help people.
Okay, thank you. We're on it. Are you Jack's son? Jack Jr.? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. You look familiar.
But
I know you.
That's not the point.
The point is that you're very familiar with that area. So
yeah.
That's
you know, we've been here 15 years trying to get something done with that corner, and it's a shame that his brother Levon Shahakian had to suffer, you know, that way.
And in fact, is the chief still here? Hi, Chief. Maybe you can listen to some of their concerns. You can thank me later, but these are, I'm sure that they're well organized apparently with some ideas. So
And we, of course, love the Glendale Police Department and the Fire Department, but if they're over there doing the speed traps, then in a way, they're acknowledging that that's a speeding area as well. But we're addressing the crosswalks. So.
Thank you. We hear you, and you can bounce some ideas off the chief as well, some particular nuances and circumstances that you see, whether it's time of day issues, whether it's certain types of volume or certain days of the week, that may help also.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually throughout the day, but it's just crossing the street, right? That's a very big park for our kids, and we have single parents here, and whether single parents or not, you still, when your kids leave the house, you want them to be safe, and that's why we live in Glendale, because, yeah. So thank you for your time, council members and mayor.
Thank you.
We just wish Levon a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have any other cards, so we will close this portion of oral communications and move on. We did 7 already. Let's move on to item 8.
8 would be action item 8A, Director of Human Resources. Regarding Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the City and Glendale Police Officers Association, GPOA. 8A1, Resolution approving and adopting the MOU commencing July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. 2 would be Resolution providing for the establishment of classification titles and compensation for employees covered by the GPOA MOU. 3 would be Resolution appropriating $988,968 to provide funding for the MOU agreement for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Ms. Beers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we are before you here today to ask for your approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Glendale and the Police Officers Association. As you are aware, we have had very long and difficult negotiations with our Police Officers Association and have come to an agreement, and I would say the agreement is such that neither party is 100% happy, which means that it's a good agreement in my mind. If you would like to have some details regarding this agreement, we have Mr. Doyle here, who was our chief negotiator for the city, to give you a brief report. Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the item before you are resolutions authorizing the adoption of an MOU between the city and the Glendale Police Officers Association. This marks the culmination of over 3 months of negotiation between the city and the GPOA, whose previous contract expired on June 30th, 2019. As is always the case, both sides entered these negotiations with specific goals and objectives and tried to meet at a place where some degree of compromise is reached and both parties' mutual goals are achieved. What animated these negotiations was a desire on the city's part to control costs, yet put forth a package that keeps the Glendale Police Department in a competitive place in a very tight and competitive labor market. Additionally, the city had to deal with legitimate concerns over the retention of experienced and quality police officers. With that in mind, we are pleased to bring forth a 3-year MOU which will run effective July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. This MOU contains very modest across-the-board salary adjustments which take effect in the 2nd and 3rd years of the contract. In the 2nd year, it's a 1.5% increase, and in the 3rd year, it's a 2.5% increase. Additionally, to address concerns over retention, the MOU includes what's called longevity pay for veteran officers when they reach 10 or 20 years of service, and that's sworn service in police work. This is phased in over the 3 years of the MOU for officers with 20 years of experience, and the final 2 years of the contract for officers with 10 years of experience. Additionally, all officers will get a reduction in the amount that they pay for their portion of the medical insurance by up to $325 per month, and this is primarily to address the increases that have occurred that have affected the officers over the past few years. Additionally, there are 4 hours of overtime that have been negotiated for the members at the sergeant rank, and those are the supervisors, and that's to address them having to respond to calls and emails on their off-duty time. Additionally, the MOU does address concerns over the retirement medical costs. In this MOU proposal, we provided a mechanism for the officers to transfer accrued sick leave to the retiree health savings account during their active employment, and also have increased their sick leave cash out from $28 for each hour of sick leave to $30 for each hour of sick leave at the end of their careers as they enter into retirement. Those are the main highlights of this very extensive proposal. This item was agreed to between the negotiating team approximately 4 weeks ago, and in the following week, this matter was taken before the membership of the GPOA, and it was ratified by their membership. At this point, it's now here for City Council consideration, and what you have tonight are really 3 resolutions. The first being the adoption of the MOU resolution itself, which contains the entire document, which is in your packet. Secondarily, there's a resolution addressing classification and compensation, which deals with any salary adjustments that occur over the next 3 years. And then the third resolution is a resolution of appropriation, which addresses the unfunded portion of the proposal, at least the first year of this 3 years. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. And I also want to make note that Chief Povolitis is here, as well as we have several members of our GPOA in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. This was a negotiated agreement. As Ms. Beer said, neither side is entirely happy with the outcome, which does mean that both sides came to a compromise to accept the terms. One of the points you made that I would like to just highlight, if it's not out of line to do so, is retention. You talked about retention. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that police officers that we have trained, we have put through the police academy, that we have vested our support in, and whom themselves have spent time learning the intricacies of our city, at one point during their tenure decide that the salaries or the benefits that Glendale offers is not enough to keep them here. When those officers leave, we are left with a huge hole. We have lost a seasoned, well-trained, well-integrated member of our police force to some other force. Lately, it's been the district attorney investigators who have an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job mostly. And that leaves us very much at a disadvantage to maintain the level of service that we have to the neighbors, to our citizens. And what does that mean, that level of service? That means that the police officer who has been familiar with let's say a disruptive teen or a disruptive member is willing to give that person a little more kid glove treatment rather than pull a revolver and draw the service weapon. These are the type of things that make integrated policing such a value, and part of that integrative is a well-staffed and well-seasoned police force. So for me, it's worth every penny maintaining the officers that we have, for whom we both have made investments, both them and us, in the well-being of the city. Mr. Quintero.
Prepared to make a motion. Can I move all 3 resolutions? Yeah. All right. I will move 8A, 1, 2, and 3.
Are there any cards, Aaron?
Oh, there are.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garabetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
and Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Next item.
B, City Manager regarding appointment of 1 City of Glendale Director to the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California Board. B1, motion of appointing 1 individual to the vacant seat as the City of Glendale's Director on the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California Board for the remainder of the unexpired term through December 31st, 2020. And 2 would be motion directing staff on other options for recruitment and selection of the Glendale representative.
Thank you. Appointment to the Met Board, Mr. Are there any cards? Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item,
Thank you, colleagues.
8C, please.
City Manager regarding appointment of one City of Glendale member to the Burbank Glendale Pasadena Airport Authority Commission. C1, motion appointing one individual to the vacant seat as a Glendale member on the Airport Authority Commission for the remainder of the unexpired term through May 31st, 2021. 2 would be motion directing staff on other options for recruitment and selection of an Airport Authority Commissioner.
I nominate Mr. Agajanian.
Second.
Are there any cards? No. Any discussion? None.
Yeah, I just want
Oh,
to say,
Mr. Quintero.
having served on the commission for many years, I'm very happy that Mr. Agajanian will be sitting at the commissioners, with the commissioners. He's a engineer. Still have your certificate, I hope. Keeps it up, and that's basically what's happening at the Hollywood Burbank Airport, going through all of the necessary requirements, doing an RFP for a new terminal. There's lots of activity there, and I'm sure Mr. Agajanian will be in his element.
We're gonna put him in the control tower, Mr. Quintero.
Not that. Just for civil engineering purposes.
Roll call. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item.
Before that, thank you.
City Manager regarding appointment of one council member to the Independent Cities Association Board of Directors. D1, motion appointing one council member to serve on the board for the remainder of that council member's term.
Mr. Quintero.
I nominate Mayor Najarian.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you. 8E, please.
City Manager regarding legislative update. 1, motion to approve the updated legislative platform. 2, motion providing direction on proposed amendment AB 1110. 3, motion to note and file the legislative update. 4, motion to approve bills recommended by the Commission on the Status of Women.
Ms. Beers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, will go directly to Ms. Powers.
Ms. Powers.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, members of council, staff. Christine Powers with the City Manager's Office. For you, as part of this legislative update, are 4 items for your consideration. First is the approval of an addition to the legislative platform, as well as direction on amendments to AB 1110, noting and filing the legislative update, and finally, the approval of bills recommended by the CSW. So the legislative platform, which the council adopted several years ago, has remained. And one of the main tenets of any position that the city takes on any bill is maintaining local control. And our legislative platform was established on council strategic priorities, and so local control was never specifically mentioned, but because it is such an important piece, we thought we'd take this opportunity just to update our legislative platform, just to make it abundantly clear how important local control is to us here at the City of Glendale. Some legislative highlights that occurred so far in this current session. We've had major funding in the budget for affordable housing, which we'll get into. There was protection of SB1 transportation funds. There was a bill that threatened to take away transportation funds for any city that didn't meet the allocation needs for each level of RENA, which would have been pretty much every single city. And there was aggressive mandatory housing density bills that have been stalled for a year. This includes SB 50, which you're all well aware of, and Portantino helped stall that bill this year, but it will be back next year in some version. Many labor and election bills of concern were stalled, and there was a compromised reach on law enforcement's use of deadly force, which the council took action on with a resolution earlier this year. As far as the housing and homelessness budget trailer bill, the governor passed SB 102 and AB 101 as part of the budget with a housing and homelessness trailer bill. The goal of this trailer bill is to increase housing production in the state of California and does provide for $2.5 billion in various sources of funding for cities, counties, COGS, and various other entities. It establishes incentives to encourage cities and counties to increase housing production, and does establish a process for a court to determine if a city or county has complied with housing element law. And for cities and counties that don't comply with their HCD-approved housing element law, there will be penalties imposed, financial penalties as a last resort if cities and the HCD can't come to terms on an approved housing element. City-sponsored legislation, part of the update to you here today. Council last year had approved a legislative strategy that included 4 different strategies to combat housing issues. One was at the federal level. That's the Affordable Housing Incentive Acts of 2019, which was picked up by Congressman Schiff. This will give sellers of property more time to reinvest their capital gains realized when they're selling properties directly to public housing authorities who are buying a property for dedicated affordable housing development. And this was originally going to be introduced by the end of this month, but the congressman has said he will be introducing it by mid-September before the House goes back in session. The other one manifested into SB 521, authored by Senator Portantino, and this will provide property owners with a tax credit as an incentive for renting units to Section 8 tenants. And it is currently making its way through the session and will be heard in Assembly Appropriations on August 30th. Senator Portantino also authored SB 532 that has to do with redevelopment, and this will authorize Glendale to use remaining RDA bond proceeds for development, acquisition, rehabilitation, and preservation of affordable housing, and this will also be heard in Assembly Appropriations on August 30th. And finally, AB 1110 was authored by Assemblymember Friedman, and that has to do with notices on rent increasing. And so this is coming back to council at this time just to get council's direction on this bill. So the existing law requires a 30-day notice for a rent increase up to 10% for month-to-month tenancies, and anything above 10% requires a 60-day notice by the property owner to the tenant. The bill that was authored by Assemblymember Friedman, the way it is currently drafted, extends the notice period required for a 90-day notice for any rent increase between 10 and 15%, and 120 days for anything over 15%. Assemblymember Friedman recently came back to staff and expressed that Assemblymember Chu, who also has a rent control bill right now, is concerned that by even stating that there could be rent increases of 15% by trying to offer this protection to tenants somehow is condoning this rent increase of 15%, which is certainly not the case. And so Assemblymember Friedman has proposed an amendment of 90 days notice for rent increases above 10%, and an alternative proposal for your consideration is 120-day notice for anything above 10%. All bills must be amended by September 6th in this session in order to move forward. So it's really council's direction what they'd like to do with that bill. Assemblymember Friedman has indicated she is okay with either proposal, whether it's the 90-day notice or the 120-day notice for the 10%, and then just not mentioning 15% at this point. So some of the, as part of the legislative platform, there's a very large list of bills that staff is watching, tracking. Some of it we've taken positions on, support, oppose, and watch, and you have that in your packets. Just a couple I want to highlight that are currently making their way through. AB 516 Chu, authority to remove vehicles that the city is strongly opposed to. This would eliminate the ability for cities and law enforcement to enforce state and local vehicle violations. We would not be able to tow or immobilize vehicles with 5 or more unpaid parking tickets with expired registration or violations of parking time restrictions. So basically, people would be able to park wherever they want, and there are no real hard consequences. This is an effort to address homelessness and people being targeted, which doesn't happen here in Glendale, but it does happen in other cities. So unfortunately, this is a bill that would greatly take away our local control. Another one, just to point out, that was thankfully the author withdrew, was AB 1356 by Ting, and that has to do with retail commercial cannabis activity. Had this moved forward, cities that had a vote of 50% or more for Prop 64 would be required to open up cannabis retail operations in the city. And so in the city of Glendale, it was 54%. And so based on the formula, we would have had to have about a dozen or so retail cannabis activities, and that would have taken away the local control that we had. And of course, AB 1482 by Chu has to do with a 7% rent cap statewide on certain properties with a option to adjust for inflation. On the Senate side, just a couple bills to point out. SB 230, law enforcement use of deadly force training policy, that was one that council had supported by resolution, and this bill can't pass until the counterpart on the other side. AB 392 is signed into law, but there have been talks for both bills to match and come to the table and put something useful and constructive forward for law enforcement to have as a policy rather than a stick. And the other one of concern that the city is opposed is SB 330, is Skinner's Housing Crisis Act. This declares a statewide housing crisis, and for a 5-year period will prohibit a city from imposing any parking requirements, adjusting any impact fees, imposing impact fees on affordable housing projects, and limiting new design standards based on costs. And developers would have up to 2.5 years to begin construction and not be subject to any new fees. Those are some of the ones that we are closely watching and submitting letters as appropriate. And then finally, for your consideration, the Commission on the Status of Women does...
Oh, hold on.
Yes,
Can
I'm
I
sorry.
just ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So on the support, oppose, and watch, who's making that decision? Is the staff or?
So staff, Councilmember Quintero, to answer your question, based on the legislative platform and based on feedback that we receive from council regarding various issues, we construct this support, oppose, and watch.
But they haven't all, I mean, I've just been on board a month, oh, it seems like a year, but everything hasn't come in front of the council, has it?
Part of the legislative platform allows for staff to make recommendations and to sometimes take action. The mayor does sign letters on behalf of the city of Glendale for any item that does move forward. Some of these we haven't sent letters on, but we've just taken a position on. But when necessary, we do send letters. And so that's the way we've been providing these legislative updates to council. It allows us to respond to things at a faster pace. But when council has items they want to bring up, and if there's a specific bill, by all means, that can be discussed by the council.
And Ms. Powers, why don't you describe the legislative platform and that, kind of process and what that entails, just as a reminder?
Sure. The legislative platform is included as Exhibit 1 of the report, and it goes through, as I said before, the various council strategic priorities that were laid out several years ago, and that includes fiscal responsibility, balanced quality housing, sustainability, infrastructure maintenance, and a lot of the bills that we take action on, we follow a lot of what the League of California Cities, which we're a member of, and they've been working very hard on a lot of these bills, as well as our lobbyists. So we tend to align almost 100% of the time with the League's position on a lot of these bills.
Mr. Gajanian?
I would like to join Councilmember Quintero. These issues, these legislative issues, when it's comes or you hear about it, we have to know and we have to have some opinion about it. This is done by, in my opinion, done by staff. And you guys wrote Oppose, Watch, and others. I think we have been unaware. You may heard few items which we discussed, but specifically has not been discussed. So this time, I let it go, but I want the next time to be such that we will discuss this. Some of them, I don't think I will, some of them because I explain on TV, so I'm aware of it. Some of them, I'm not even familiar with it, and nobody spoke to me about those issues, those AB 1110, I'm very familiar with it. But the rest of them, some of them I am unaware, and I would like to see that to be involved with the issue more sooner, not the last moment. And I got this bunch of reports you provided, but when I got it, like Thursday or Friday, and there is no time for me to review each one of them. If there is so many issues that we have to agree, oppose, or whatever to go along with it, so we have to have more time, not just to get this Thursday or Friday, and then on Tuesday I say, okay, that's too close. I mean, I have problem with other items too, but I never said anything. But this, especially, it has to come to us long before that we say yes or no.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would like to add that at least once a month, if not every 6 weeks, we provide an update related to the legislative activities of the city of Glendale based on any sorts of positions that we take based on the legislative platform that is described by way of your Exhibit 1 for the City Council and your priorities. And so we provide that update by way of my weekly reports that I send to you. We provide a legislative update by way of coming to the City Council at least, how many times do we come before the council?
At least 2-3 times a year.
2 to 3 times a year. But what we will do on these items, based on feedback received this evening, we'll provide this report earlier.
3 times a year?
Yes.
But the legislators, they come up with these laws or rules, and what they're discussing is, if you provided me 3 months ago, those issues were different than today's issues.
And
so I'm talking specifically only on these numbers, AB 80 up to whatever is the last one. These, we didn't discuss 3 months ago or 6 months ago or whenever. Those were different AB, whatever the number was, legislative issues that at that time was relevant. We discussed, but not this specific, let's say, AB 1110. We didn't discuss it 6 months ago.
What we will bring to the City Council in an earlier format before you get an actual agenda report. We'll provide you with a report earlier so that the council can
When
give
was
us.
that? When
I'm saying coming forward.
Oh, coming forward,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
We will bring this information to you earlier so that you have some time to digest
Right.
it, so you don't get it the Thursday before. So we'll provide it by way of weeklies, as I've done in the past, and I've done that for the last year and a half, at least every 6 weeks, if not sooner. I have information in my weekly reports that I send to the City Council. But outside of that, we will provide this report to you as early as we possibly can, so you have time to give us your feedback on each of these items. And if there's anything that you are not in alignment with, whether it's a watch, support, or oppose, we'd ask for you to give us that feedback this evening, and we will definitely follow up on that direction based on what the City Council wants to do and what that platform is. And again, all of these items are based on information that we've received from the council in terms of your priorities from the past, as well as kind of the overall strategic goals that have to do with local control, fiscal responsibility, economic vibrancy, informed and engaged community, safe and healthy community, balanced quality housing, community services and facilities, and infrastructure and mobility, arts and culture, and sustainability. But I take the feedback and will provide you information sooner.
Just one more point of clarification, members of council, Mayor. The utility-related bills that are within this legislative update, those are GWP as part of SCAPA and CMUA, and those positions are through those associations that the utility is a part of.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily send out letters or take hard positions, but that is through our association with those groups that we have those positions.
Okay, continue.
Thank you. And so finally, there is a list of bills recommended by the Commission on the Status of Women for City Council's consideration. I can go through all of them. Starting at the beginning, the first one is AB 31 that has to do with sales and use taxes, and that would be to not charge sales and use taxes for sanitary napkins and feminine hygiene products. This has come before the legislator before it made it to Governor Brown last session, and he vetoed it. And at this point, it's become a 2-year bill, but that is something that the commission has supported in the past. There are a couple of bills on here that have to do with maternal health, creating extended postnatal and prenatal maternal health programs to support women after they give birth. There is a bill on here that has to do, AB 1030 has to do with pelvic examinations and the creation of an informational pamphlet by the state that all gynecologists would be required to give to their patients before their first exam, and the patients would sign that they understand what a pelvic exam entails, so that they are protected and know what is and isn't supposed to occur during such exams. We are watching a bill, SB 22, on rape kit testing. Originally, this bill had about $2 million that would have come to local agencies, so the commission was supporting this because it would help process rape kits, but that was recently amended and that was pulled, so really there isn't much meat to it, and so the CSW is just recommending that we watch that bill for now. There are a couple bills in here, SB 338, SB 611, and 661, that have to do with elderly and related to long-term care and housing for the elderly. And of note, finally, is SB 493, and that's Jackson's sex equity education bill. This would require colleges and universities to have a set of policies and procedures and make public those policies and procedures. So when students want to come forward and report sexual assault, that they know what the process is, and even the people being accused know what the process is, and that there is transparency in that procedure. That concludes my report if there's any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
I would like to move the item. We have to move the item, right?
Yes.
I'll second.
Don't we have to give input on the 120 days?
Yes, please.
So I would.
AB 1110, if we could
Yeah,
get some
so
feedback.
My personal point of view is that we go with the 120 days, as I guess we're kind of recommending. I'd go for the 120. Just gives renters a longer period of time for that relocation. So that would be my choice.
I prefer 90.
Personally, I prefer 90. I'm not happy with the state imposition of, the potential state imposition of rent control anyway. I believe that should be a city-by-city decision. But I think 120 days is a bit long. I would go with 90.
I would like to go with 120. What do we have to do now? We have to vote on it then?
Well, let's hear it from Mr. Carpich.
I think since our Assembly member Friedman was okay with 90 as well, I would go with 90.
That was your proposed
That was,
amendment.
yes, Mayor Najarian, Councilmember Garfetch, and that was her proposal, was 90 days. So
We don't want to
that's
go
how it
against
is.
our
in-
assembly member.
No, we don't. Okay.
Not yet, not unless it suits you. Okay, so that would be our direction on AB 1110. And then the motion is moving 8E 1 through 4. Is there a second? Do we need to?
On E2, that's the direction on AB, since there's a difference of opinion on that.
Yeah.
Do you want to take that one separately, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, let's move 1, 3, and 4.
I'll move those items.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. So 8E2 with the 90-day recommendation for notice.
Somebody needs to make the motion.
I'll
That
make
was
the motion.
Frank's motion.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Agajanian,
I abstain.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is F, Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Maple Park Playground Equipment, request for donations. F1, resolution authorizing the donation transfer to the Tufenkian Foundation Incorporated.
Okay, Ms. Beers, do you need a report? Do you want to give a report?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we were before you March 26th of 2019 regarding the playground equipment at Maple Park. The direction we received that evening was to put the playground equipment, disassemble it, and put it in storage. If we received within 6 months an organization that may be interested in the equipment, to bring information back to the City Council. Some months ago, we received a letter from the Tufenkian Foundation requesting for this playground equipment to be donated to them. We are here before you regarding this item, and I would answer any questions, and Mr. Belenikian is also here if you have any questions related to this item.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? We do have a card from Mr. Gazarian. Mr. Gazarian.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, staff, good evening. I'm here actually on behalf of Tufenkian Foundation this evening, and the item before you is for the benefit of an Armenian school in Mijnavan. It's called Mijnavan High School, with a student body of 260 students with grades from first grade to 12th grade. The school is located in the town of Mijnavan, as I stated. It's in the southern Kashatag region of the Republic of Artsakh, where I just returned from exactly 2 weeks ago today. This matter was first brought to the Tufenkian Foundation's attention shortly after a fundraiser that was held in my home on April 6. There, the executive director of the foundation, who then wrote a letter that was sent to me, that I caused it to be delivered to City Manager Ms. Beers, referenced that which the executive director had come to know of by way of this body's having resolved on March 26 and placed the materials in some storage. I will not read that letter into the record. I'm sure the city manager has it. The letter was also CC'd to the director of Community Services and Parks. But I would like to say a few words about the Tufenkian Foundation for those of you who do not know what it does. It was launched in 1999 to address the most pressing social, economic, cultural, and environmental challenges facing Armenia. Its founder is entrepreneur James Tufenkian, who had already been using his business ventures to promote social justice for over a decade back then, first in Nepal and then in his ancestral homeland of Armenia. However, for him, it soon became apparent that complex, long-standing issues were hindering Armenia's well-being, and that could not be solved by market forces alone, and it required commitment and innovation. So he went on the last 2 decades trying to develop new models to address poverty and promote education and protect natural environment and many other issues in Armenia. Since 2002, the foundation has pursued a combination of on-hands of reforestation, community initiatives, public advocacy, schools being constructed and reconstructed and reformed. And the focus in Armenia of the foundation is not political, but it recognizes that many of the challenges are tied to other major problems facing Armenia, including some rule of law issues and some past corruption, and short-term mentalities, as well as energy security and affordability. What needs to be said, and I will conclude very briefly, is that in 2003, the mission of the foundation was expanded to include the Republic of Artsakh, which is in dire need of services. And during the last 15 years, since 2003, they've responded to these needs by building and renovating houses and schools and clinics and supporting wounded soldiers and etc. The foundation had its fundraiser in my home. They asked me to hold the fundraiser. It was for the very same school. And I would just urge you as constituents of your city who have an affinity to
to the people of Armenia. And this city and this body has an affinity towards children everywhere to please consider donating this so that it can be used. Thank you very much.
I don't have any other cards. Ms. Devine, would you like to go first?
Sure. I do have I think we have a photo of the equipment that we're talking about in case we've forgotten about it. I want to thank everyone tonight for listening. When the proposal for donating this playground equipment to Armenia was first discussed by council 5 months ago, it was rejected by a 3-2 vote. The rejection was based on 2 reasons. First, giving used equipment to Armenia would be an insult to the Armenian people and the Armenian government. Second, due to the age and condition of the equipment, it would be unsafe for the children. Included in the vote was of course, direction to staff that if a foundation or an organization came forward and wanted the equipment, that we would consider that. And staff was directed to destroy the equipment if no one asked for it after 6 months. And you can see the equipment there and what kind of shape it's in. And subsequently, we did receive this letter from the Tufenkian Foundation. In making my decision regarding this resolution, I considered 2 reasons which resulted, the 2 main reasons which resulted in the rejection of this equipment. First of all, reason number 1, in considering that the concern that a donation like this of used equipment would be an insult to the Armenian people or the government, I found no evidence to substantiate this concern. And I am convinced that this well-connected and respected Tufenkian Foundation would never have requested this equipment if there was any possibility of this resulting or insulting the people of Armenia or the government. And secondly, in considering the concern about the condition, age and condition of the equipment, I did 2 things. First, I met with staff and asked them 3 questions. First, because this equipment is 18 years old and has remained in service beyond the city's normal 12 to 15-year replacement cycle and is overdue for replacement, does that imply in any way that the equipment is currently unsafe if its use were to be continued for an additional period of time? And the answer was no. How many additional years do you think there are left in this equipment without concerns about safety? And the answer was 3 to 5 years. Based on the existing condition of the equipment, other than possible cosmetic and reinstallation work, would any of the equipment require significant and ongoing repairs to maintain it in the same condition? And the answer was no. Next, I listened to all the presentations, etc., read the staff report. During oral presentations, staff has always maintained that there was no safety concern regarding the continued use of this equipment, and staff is recommending that the resolution be approved because the equipment can find a new life through the donation to the Tufenkian Foundation. And that was the statement that really moved me, that this playground will give new life not only to the equipment but to the kids that we would be servicing, that we would be donating it to, who are right now playing on dirt with very little equipment. And this equipment would be like a very important gift to them. So therefore, I am convinced that by staff's answers to my questions and to the recommendation for approval of the resolution that the equipment is safe for the children of Artsakh, that they can enjoy it. You know, we all are aware of and perhaps seen the need for help in Armenia and Artsakh. We are also aware that the city of Glendale has in the past donated equipment to Armenia, and that's used equipment, by the way. We have before us a reputable foundation that has asked for playground equipment for a school in Artsakh, and we have the opportunity tonight for Glendale to show its support of Artsakh by approving the resolution for the donation of this playground equipment to these children. So after my colleagues, Mr. Mayor, complete their comments, I would ask that you allow me to proudly, I hope, make the motion for the approval of this resolution, and let's send that equipment to the kids in Artsakh, to the Tefenkian Foundation who's requesting it. Thank you.
So let me just get this straight. Our staff says that there's 5 more years of use in this? And if so, why did we replace? That's the obvious question.
That's exactly what I said, right?
And, I mean,
Sure.
And
Mr. Mayor.
If that's true for the equipment for Verdugo, for Verdugo Park's equipment, if the same statement is true for Verdugo Park equipment, let's not replace it for another 3 to 5 years. Because if you calculate it, it's another $100,000. So.
Mayor Najarian, members of the council, Councilmember Karapetian, the Verdugo Park playground is the old playground equipment that was donated from the Americana. We really don't have a actual playground there. There's a couple pieces. In terms of the Maple Park playground, we do have, about 3 to 5 years of life. But as part of the DIF strategic plan in 2016, it was back then it was the Maple Park all-inclusive playground was approved. We needed a large space, and since Maple Park was next on the list, we went ahead and put Maple Park. The reason why we have a 10 to 12-year program in replacing playgrounds is with the new technology and the different research in healthy play and the different events, the newer events each playground provides. We like to change it up at all of our parks. So we estimate between 10 to 12 years on all of our playgrounds.
Excuse, Mr. Mayor, we also have standards, don't we, that in the United States, in California and Glendale, that we use our equipment for a certain amount of time and then it must be replaced.
Yes.
That's not true in other countries, in Armenia.
You don't know that.
I'm not sure what that's.
You don't know that.
I know this is an exciting conversation, the audience, so just hold on.
Okay.
It may get better.
And the other question, is staff recommending donating the equipment?
They did. That's what the staff recommendation says.
Staff is not, we're asking that the city council look at the,
Approved.
and I understand that. Let me just clarify so that we're all on the same page in terms of this playground equipment. You have a request that's before you as the city council to make a policy decision related to playground equipment that has been dismantled appropriately and placed in storage if the council so desires to donate it to another entity or organization. The playground equipment has lived its life here in the city of Glendale based on our needs and our expectations of what you as a council set as priorities for this community. Now, it's up to the council to make that policy decision whether you donate this item to whether it's Artsakh or elsewhere, or you don't. And if the staff report is written that way, it shouldn't be written that way, because honestly, this is completely a council decision based on what you would like to do in terms of moving forward with the playground equipment. And I apologize for that if it's written in that manner.
And also, if we don't approve this, this will be destroyed. This equipment right there will be destroyed.
Well, were any of my colleagues invited to that April 6th Tufenkian event?
Not me.
I would have liked to have attended.
No, I wasn't invited.
No, look, I was not invited, so this is,
$250 a person.
this is
Yeah, that-
part of,
Yeah,
this is part
but
of the...
I know that Ms.
the
Devon
later
was
discussion.
invited. So, okay, let me, yeah.
Mr. Kazarian, as a member of one of our commissions, you're well aware of the protocol. You don't yell things out from the back of the room. So, thank you. We gave you ample time, excess time, and I didn't make any issues, so.
Would you
Mr.
like me
Garpetian?
to- Look, I really appreciate Mr. Gazarian being here, and the Tufengian family has done a tremendous amount of work in Artsakh, in Armenia, especially close to Stepanakert. I was there a month ago, 3 weeks ago. I was in Armenia and Artsakh, and I went to every little city. I went to every little village in there. They've done a great job, and I spoke to members of the family this morning as well. I thought we voted on this item. We voted for this item not to be sent to Armenia, and there was a reason behind it. This equipment, the way it's set up, I don't know when this picture was taken.
The day before it was taken down. The day before it was taken down is when that picture was taken. I took it.
I understand that.
Okay.
I appreciate you let me finish because we don't interrupt each other. I don't interrupt my colleagues when they speak. But nonetheless, I have some pictures of the same equipment as well. Okay? And if you can put the first file up.
The new one or the
No,
old one?
just move forward, please. Yeah. Okay, hold it right there. Keep this right there. This is in Artsakh. It's in Stepanakert. Okay. So, in order for public to know, in order to send this, just keep this here for time being. In order to send this equipment to Artsakh, you have to get a truck from Glendale, take it to the port, either the port of LA or Galveston, put it in a container or a trailer, ship it to Poti, which is a port in Georgia. Then, from Armenia, you have to send a truck to pick up, and it'll take about 12 hours, good 12 hours, from Armenia to Port of Poti, if I'm not, because it's a big truck, to pick up this equipment, bring it back to Armenia, and then from there, drive another at least 8 to 10, 12 hours to Artsakh, and try to assemble this equipment over there. Now, I have other pictures of that equipment, but wait, this is in Artsakh, and it's not that they may be poor, but they're not beggars. I'm kind of disappointed in this whole notion of it has to go to Armenia. No, it doesn't. It lived here 18 years. It was used 18 years. It's dilapidated. The plexiglass the color is faded. The color of the slides are faded. Some of the protecting coating is chipped off. It's rusted. When you promise children of Armenia or Artsakh or any country that you're going to send equipment to them, playground equipment to them, they're looking for something like that. And this equipment is available in Armenia. And the manufacturer is in Armenia. And I mentioned this last time as well, if we really want to do that, Mr. Gazarian and or Tufengian family, I'm willing to. This is another one. Just keep going forward. This is another one. Move forward. This is an older one. It's in Artsakh. Move forward, please. This is what they have right now. This is an old, very old one that they have in Artsakh. And when they remove these, they don't put it in another school. They destroy it. And every other play equipment that we had in Glendale that was replaced, they were all last staff report said it has scrap value. They will always scrap it out. So this is a little kid playing. And there are foundations that they build these equipments, and it's very inexpensive. If you do it in there, you create jobs, you buy it from Armenia, you install it in Armenia, they come in and install it for you. And this equipment will cost, I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000. I don't know what the cost of shipping this thing is over there. So this notion of, they don't have any, they may be poor, I understand. They are. They're disadvantaged. But the reason we voted on this, I thought we voted on this not to go to Armenia, and now it's back again. And right after we made the decision, and the Tufengen family from East Coast, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct? Asked for this thing. So, and they've done a great job. Nothing against the foundation. If this has another 2 or 3 years, what are you going to do? Send it over there, and 2 years later they have to just dismantle it and throw it away? What's the point? If we want to send equipment, playground equipment to the school, I'm willing to write a check. I was not invited, but I will write a check. Let's come together, put it together, purchase one from Armenia, made in Armenia, and install it there. You don't have to go back and forth and all this, it's kind of not right. And if you go to the second file, please.
Second file?
The old equipment file?
Sure.
You see these pieces coming off? These are all dangerous material that's being exposed. Move forward. This is the plexiglass of the same equipment. Move forward. These are all the posts. They have graffitis on it. Move forward. Look at this one. You want to send this to what are we trying to say? It's just, I just don't understand it. If we want to do something from heart and be sincere about it, let's do it the right way. And it can be purchased over there and install brand new equipment for them, not send this thing to, there are so many graffitis on it that we painted over it. You want to send that over there and say, this is our gift to you? I think that's insulting. That's my thing. Again, I appreciate my colleagues' sentiment on this, but I think, and I was there, if they don't, and they have old equipment. When they remove it, they don't put it somewhere else. They don't put it in a school that they don't have equipment. They just throw it away because they're old. The same thing with this one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me. We are spending too much time. I want to move the item based on alternative 2.
Which is?
Yeah, so I'm,
Secretary.
well, let him make the motion.
Okay, so you're, Mr. Agajan, you're moving 8F2?
Yes.
Was that to not send it?
There's no 8F2, so if
I'm sorry?
There's no 8F2. So if nobody's inclined to make the motion 8F1, someone can always make a substitute, or not even a substitute motion, can make a motion.
Alternative 2.
Yeah, but it's not on the agenda, it's 8F2. So alternative 2 is to basically choose not to approve the resolution. But I think, as Ms. Beers noted earlier, it'd be, if that's the direction, it should be a motion to discard the equipment.
Okay.
Well,
First of all, so is that your motion then, to dispose of the equipment in the
Yes.
usual
As
manner?
CD was doing.
That we have done for last 50 years.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, but we're still discussing, so Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I'm late to the discussion, and as you can see, it's quite passionate. I didn't realize it was actually coming up tonight. I wanted to go and to see it visually. I've only seen pictures, and this is the first time that I see Mr. Garapetian's close-ups. So I hope that if in fact it gets to Artsakh, I hope maybe prior to that or at the location they have some way to kind of rehab it a little bit, spray paint it, or do something to make it look a little bit better, especially the way the actual material is coming off some of the items. Overall, I'm for it. I think it's a good idea to have it sent to Artsakh, and hopefully it would, work out for the little kids. And so anyway, I'm generally for it, but it's the first time I've seen the pictures of the equipment itself, and like I said, I didn't actually get a chance to look at it.
and I'd like to add another, Mr. Councilmember Garpetian was talking about the shipping and the cost, et cetera. That is, we have that all covered. we have, or I have a group that's willing to pay for all of the shipping to Artsakh or Armenia or wherever it goes. So that's all taken care of. And I didn't really want to play this card, but I have a Facebook post that Mr. Garpetian posted in a playground with a slide on dirt. And in this Facebook page, he says, this Armenian American Orphan Christmas Fund, the need for new play equipment was evident, and the school administration also expressed a great need for one.
Yes.
Now, this play equipment is, on their standards, is new. We are willing to do cosmetic work on the equipment if necessary. It pains me to think that we would destroy this equipment when some children can be using it. I also want to say that in an ambulance was sent that was 13 years old that needed a lot of work. 2 fire engines were sent that were 23 years old and needed work and could possibly break down. And if that wasn't going to be a safety problem for the kids and people in Armenia, I don't know what would. This equipment is not going to hurt anybody. It's just going to make little kids happy. That's the end.
We shouldn't get into the ambulance because I was involved in that. I've got a lot to say about that. Let me go to you, Mr. Garpetian.
Let me just make a couple of clarification. Yes, I posted that school because I was involved with a large group. I was a very small donor that always supports small nonprofits that they do work all over the world. We support a group that bring shoes, brand new shoes, to an orphanage in Mexico. I never talk about it, but the key to my post was new playground equipment, not the old and dilapidated one. That school is a large school, has 120 kids. They're all kindergarten kids. They can use a good equipment, and half the school is rehab. It's renovated. Everything is brand new in that half that's renovated. The second half is going to be renovated because there's fundraisings like Tufengian family does. There is a fund, what is it called? The Christmas Orphanage Fund. And they're raising money to rehab the second half because there are 90 students in waiting list for that school. But the key was new equipment. And as far as the fire trucks go, I was the one that made that motion twice in a year and a half to donate those fire trucks to Armenia. And after it was approved, they sent their head of the FEMA to come to Glendale and inspect those fire trucks before they were sent to them. And they didn't need paint, they didn't need any of that. They came here, inspected it to make sure it's to their standards, it will work in Armenia, and that's when they accepted it. And I was the one who went around, called everyone I knew these trucks are very large, they won't fit in trailers. So it was sent to Galveston, Texas, to be shipped to Armenia, because no port in LA area could have sent it. So it was sent to Galveston, and that's when they had Katrina, and it was delayed for a few weeks. But they sent the head of their FEMA to come in and inspect those trucks. And as far as the ambulances go, some of these ambulances that they have over there, when we talked to them, and also I think Adventists had the same idea to send ambulances to them, they said, no, purchase new ambulances here in Armenia, the ones that are built by, I don't know, Russia or some of those Eastern Bloc countries, because they work in that climate. Some of our ambulances do not work in that climate in Artsakh or parts of Armenia. And the trains, the roads are rougher than what we have here. The ambulances that we have, they don't last long. So they said instead of sending the ambulances, help us purchase new ambulances here. And that's what the foundation did, the Adventists did for them, and purchased new ambulances there. And when you look at it, they look really, but it works there. They know how to manage it. And so again, I'm going to stop here, Mr. Mayor. There's a motion and a second. Let's take a roll call.
I'm deciding whether I want to comment on this or just vote. I'm just going to say I think the children of Stepanakert and Artsakh deserve better than the used equipment, and I will be contributing to the fund. I guess you've announced you're creating a fund to obtain the funds for at least one set of equipment.
Look, if Mr. Mayor, there are.
I'd rather contribute that way personally than to have.
Me too. I already did, and there are so many different funds and organizations, nonprofits, that they do that all the time. They raise money and do this kind of humanitarian work, not only in Armenia and Artsakh, in different parts of the world too. I would appreciate your contribution as well. So.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Let's take roll call.
Councilmember Devine?
No.
Karapetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
No.
Agajanian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Okay, before we move on, so let's clear something up. So now, while you're talking about a fund, et cetera, how about just working with Tufenkian? Let's raise money quickly so that they can purchase some new equipment made in Armenia for that particular location. Does that work? I mean,
Why do we have to work with Tufenkian?
Well, they had a commitment to, maybe the foundation can contribute half, we can do half.
We invite contributions from all sources.
Right, but I mean, let's.
I don't want to speak for the fund director or the chairman of the fund,
Rather
but
than this fund, I'd rather.
I don't know if the count is in our preview tonight or before us to make that kind of a decision.
No, I know that. We can't do that.
We always work with whoever wants to work. I mean, I contribute to so many different funds every year, and if the Tufenkian opens the door to me as well to help, I'm always willing to help. And I spoke to my friends, Tufenkian friends, this morning, and anyways, we'll deal with it. We have a motion. And
No, it's already passed. This is posed.
Let's move on. It's late.
All right, so hopefully we'll be able to get something going there. The second thing is, although that equipment absolutely looks more used than I thought it would be, we have a sister city in Rosarito Beach. Are we still in contact with them? Do we have, years ago, it was very active? I'm not sure that.
They have not been active in the last 3 to 5 years, I would say, at all.
Because it's too bad. I mean, we could approach them and see it's much closer. It could be driven with a semi, and so we just haven't had.
That was immaterial because we had it paid for. We had the transportation paid for.
So we're not, or even the other one in, same way.
It is one of the mayor's asks for the year for us to kind of introduce ourselves to the sister cities that we haven't had.
Well, yeah, and I'm just saying, before we scrap it, maybe there's some other part of the world that would be happy to.
Problem is, I mean, council
The motion
voted
was to discard it.
Oh, so this motion is to
Yeah.
be disposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
next item, please.
Next item will be the Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Senior Services Committee Year 1 update. G1, motion to note and file report.
Ms. Beers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I will ask Ms. Maggie Kavarian to give you a report on our first year for the Senior Committee.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, members of the City Council. I'm Maggie Kavarian with the Community Services and Parks Department, here to give you a update and highlight of our Senior Services Committee Year 1 update. We're going to go through the background and history on how all of this came to be. In May of 2017, a feasibility study was requested, and we reported back to the City Manager's office. And in September of 2017, we conducted a full-scale citywide senior needs assessment. And in April, City Council, we presented to City Council the senior needs assessment with 6 key recommendations, and the City Council accepted the senior needs assessment report and also became part of the AARP network of age-friendly cities. We have 6 key recommendations that we established in the senior needs assessment. 2 of those have already been completed since we started our Senior Services Committee. Formation of the Senior Services Committee. We have a 13-member committee serving 2-year terms. We met 4 times in fiscal year 18-19 at the Adult Recreation Center. We have the 13-member committee is comprised of 5 members of the Aging Services and Gerontology community. We have 4 city staff, we have 3 hospital members, and we have 1 senior advocate. 2 of our members are here today, our Chair Camille Levy, as well as our committee member Steve Pierce. So our goals for 18-19. We really wanted to review, prioritize, and develop a strategic plan based off of those 6 key recommendations. Here's a picture of our committee during our Older Americans Month back in May. Our first meeting was comprised of electing our chair and vice chair. We discussed our goals and expectations and did our action plan. Our next meeting, we had a presentation from our housing division. Peter Zovak came and spoke because our recommendation number 1 was finding alternative housing solutions for seniors. The committee voted to table that recommendation because City Council was still discussing Measure S. We focused more on committee, the committee voted to prioritize recommendations 3, 4, and 5. And that first year, we had Captain Andrew Gano give us a presentation on emergency preparedness. We are coordinating an emergency preparedness event in this fall, which is on October 5th on a Saturday at the Police Community Room that the committee is coordinating. In May, we discussed healthcare and caregiver training support strategies, and that's something that we're going to be working on in this coming year, as well as a citywide senior scam stoppers event, again, in collaboration and partnership with the Glendale Police Department. Looking ahead, we are going to be having a presentation by the Public Works Transit section. They're coming out in November to present Dial-A-Ride and Beeline services to our committee members. And in conclusion, I think the most important takeaway from this committee at this time is the fact that we have been information gathering resources and sharing it among the committee members, where they go and share it to the seniors that they represent and they serve. So in conclusion, I have 2 of our committee members, and I think one of them would like to speak on behalf of the committee and give us a little bit of her thoughts on the first year. Thank you.
And would you like to introduce your committee member?
Our committee member, would you like to introduce her? Okay. Our committee member is the chair of the committee. This is her 2nd year as the chair. Her name is Camille Levy.
Thank you, Ms. Levy.
Thank you. Good evening. I won't make this very long. Steve Pierce is my backup behind me to make sure nobody throws anything. We have 45,000 seniors.
Got to worry about this side. We might throw something here.
We have 45,000 seniors in the city of Glendale, and that number is growing. We don't want to be known as a senior community, but we do want to be known as an age-friendly community, which means that the kinds of steps that we at the committee are taking are not just for our seniors, but will help our whole entire community as we all progress. As you saw, housing was the number 1 priority, affordable housing, senior housing. We're still looking at a variety of alternatives. We studied ADUs. We have some of our committee members who are bringing forward what other cities are doing to address that housing issue. So we are moving forward. I would invite each and every one of you, both on the City Council and staff to come to our Emergency Preparedness Fair on October 5th. It's a blanket invitation and open to the entire community. We became very aware that doing things in the evening prohibits some of our seniors from attending. So we're doing it during the day. We're encouraging families, so seniors and their families can come and take advantage. With that, I'd like to thank you for your support of our committee as we move forward in our second year. You're probably going to see me again because they just elected me for another year. So thank you very much.
Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Ms.
Yeah,
Devine?
I just want to thank you, Camille, and staff for the success so far of this committee. I'm so proud that I was the initiator of this committee on behalf of the seniors in our community. So thank you for serving, and I wish you good luck in the next year. Thanks. Okay.
And so this is a receive and file. Would someone like to move 8G1?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Agajanian?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item.
9 is hearing Director of Community Development regarding 1545 Virginia Avenue, Glendale registered nomination. 9A1, resolution to list 1545 Virginia Avenue on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize the Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. 2, motion to not list 1545 Virginia Avenue on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize the Mills Act contract between the owner and the city.
We're going to
We
read
can
all
read all-
these into
read all
the
4
record.
items
So
into the
read
record.
all items, please. We're going to take this as a large item.
B would be Director of Community Development regarding 3030 Edgewick Road, Glendale Register nomination. 1, resolution to list 3030 Edgewick Road on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. 2, motion to not list 3030 Edgewick Road on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. C, Director of Community Development regarding 1837 Scherer Lane, Glendale Register nomination. 1, resolution to list 1837 Scherer Lane on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. 2, motion to not list 1837 Scherer Lane on the Glendale Register of Historic Resources and not authorize a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city. D, Director of Community Development regarding 1521 North Columbus Avenue, Toll House, GR number 9, Mills Act application. 1, motion authorizing a Mills Act contract between the owner and the city.
Thank you. Ms. Beers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we're going to go directly to Mr. Platt, who will give you a presentation on all the items that were just read into the record.
Open the hearing, Mr. Mayor.
I will open the public hearing on all items.
Thank you. You've just heard that you're going to be considering 4 separate items. I'm running them all together in one presentation. The Historic Preservation Commission has reviewed each of these and recommends that Council approve the Glendale Register nominations, placing the properties on the Glendale Register, and then also the Mills Act contracts that go along with these. The first property is 1545 Virginia Avenue. It's a Tudor Revival single-family house. The Commission found that this exhibited many of the character-defining features of the style. Lots of interesting things going on with leaded glass and nice front door, and the chimney's pretty interesting with the brick and stucco mixed together. The owner of the house was not significant in the history of Glendale or anywhere else, so this is being nominated just for the quality of its architecture under Criterion 3. The second item is 3030 Edgewick Road, which is also a Tudor Revival house. What's interesting about these going back to back is you can see how architects could really play with these styles and make them look very different from each other, even though they have similar kind of vocabularies in terms of their roof forms, the shapes of the house. This house is incredibly notable architecturally for its use of brick, which is pretty rare in Glendale, including these dark bricks, which are really rough textured. They're called clinker bricks. We don't see a lot of that. The house has some very interesting features, including this kind of tower-like feature that you see in the left, like a little castle with those pieces at the top. This house is also notable for its association with some significant people, and this is fun when we get these kinds of nominations because it's not the typical, but this is a picture of Tom Knutson, founder of Knutson Dairy. It was originally called Knutson Creamery, and not only did he create a big business that all of us who grew up here, we were a Knutson family, it seemed like everyone had to be, but he was also instrumental in developing kind of new dairy techniques. So he was kind of beyond just being a successful businessman, he was also kind of really moving the field forward. And what's especially cool about this house is that his wife, Valley Knutson, is also significant individually for her contributions to Los Angeles. She was the founder of a group called Los Angeles Beautiful, which probably was the inspiration for Glendale Beautiful back in the day. And she, through her efforts, helped bring the coral trees to San Vicente Boulevard in Los Angeles. This is the Valley Knudsen House. It's actually called that. It's at Heritage Square in Highland Park. So they're kind of a power couple of their day, and we're finding the Historic Preservation Commission found the house significant for the architecture and that association. The third item is a Mediterranean Revival House on Schurer Lane, built by Mr. Howland. Interesting story in the Howland family, ultimately not that contributed to the history of Glendale or Los Angeles, it was kind of an earlier family history. But the house itself is a very beautiful example of Mediterranean revival with a lot of really distinctive, interesting features. I'm especially, the picture at the top right has this outdoor loggia patio that is an incredibly pleasant space, and we don't see a lot of those. House was designed by an interesting firm. I just want to throw this in there to put it in context. It was the firm of Marston, Van Pelt, and Maybury. They did a lot of work in Pasadena, so all four of these examples are Pasadena, but a couple of them I think are landmarks you're probably very familiar with. So now we're bringing our knowledge of this firm into Glendale and sharing it with everyone here. And what's also cool about this house is the owners, and this is one of the great things where the owners really get into the history of their house, and they started digging around and found that this was published in a magazine called Pacific Architect. So we actually have this early photograph, we have early floor plans. That's something we don't get very often on our nominated properties. The final item you're considering tonight is 1521 North Columbus Avenue. It's called the Toll House. You've probably heard of it. Hopefully you've seen it. It's been on the Glendale Register since we had a Glendale Register, so it's number 9 on the register. This is an example of a property that has been designated for a long time, but recently changed ownership. The new owners recognize that a Mills Act contract will give them extra income or allow them to take some of their income to go toward the ongoing maintenance. And this is a big house with several outbuildings, and it's a really one of our best craftsman houses in Glendale. And this is one that's pretty well documented, and it's fun to see the old picture and then the new picture, and the house really hasn't changed a lot. There's a lot of original material going on. This used to be the front of the house.
Excuse me.
Sorry, yes.
Can you go back to the
Sure.
previous picture? You see that? It looks, the older one, it's more extended than this new one.
It's probably just the angle or the camera lens or something. You could trust me, the house, they didn't change the house very much. It's pretty close to what it
Look
was.
at the right one, the distance, so maybe the picture is, I don't know. But
Yeah, I think it's
like
just, and the landscape has changed definitely over the time, so.
Eagle eye, a gajanian.
This house used to face Kenneth Road, and the lot was subdivided. So what we're looking at here is the front of the house, which is now really the side of the house when you look at it from the street, because the property's smaller, but it's still on a big piece of land, and definitely a very interesting property. When you're on the Glendale Register or the Mills Act, we don't regulate the use or any changes that people make to the interior. This house does have some spectacular interiors. Oops, I forgot I included Charles Toll and Eleanor Joy Toll, just to give some faces to the house. Toll Middle School is named for Eleanor Toll, and she was an educator who was very active in Glendale, Board of Education and all. And then here are the photos of the interior, just to show not only has the exterior not changed a ton, but the interiors really retain their original craftsman character, and that's very, very rare, not just in Glendale, but anywhere. So it's something that we should be excited that we're helping, if council approves the Mills Act, helping this to be maintained for many years to come.
beautiful homes. I do have one card from Jennifer Marks.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Marks. I'm the resident at the 1837 property, and I put the card in just to thank everybody for their efforts and time in considering our property. We feel very fortunate to be able to live in such a special house, and we look forward to the possibility of working with the city to maintain it for many years to come in as original a state as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want us to move all 4 of them? I so move.
May we do so, Mr.?
I'll move all 4.
Second. Anybody want to gush over how
They're
great
gorgeous.
homes they are?
They're beautiful.
I mean, they're almost beyond words. I mean, they're...
They are.
My favorite one is the Edgewick one.
Which
The
one?
brick one, Edgewick.
They're all beautiful, incredibly beautiful homes. Roll call.
No offense to the others.
Yes.
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 Who? How you, Mayor Najarian? You're fired. You're fired. Out of here. You're out. Out. Sebastian's in Armenia. Yes, Najarian says yes. Okay, next item, please.
Let's go.
You had to end the day on the last,
Little
right?
levity, that's okay.
Next would be oral communications, 5 minutes. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker.
Folks, let's keep it down, please. We have a significant portion of our meeting still to go.
But there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Thank you. First speaker is Nancy Sumner.
I'm actually going to read from my notes because it was a lot longer meeting than I thought we were going to have. Thank you, Mayor Najarian, Paula, for being a friend and always being here for us. And the City Council, I feel like I know all of you. And I'm actually also going to be a voice for the community right now, so that's why I really want to read this. And the Glendale residents that are left watching this on TV. Thank you for this violation. I received a violation from the city, which I've heard a lot of people have received. Actually, I've gotten in better shape as I walked around and drove over a 3-mile grid around the neighborhood, collected data, knocked on many doors, and reached out our next-door neighbor. It was very helpful, and I was surprised and shocked by some of their comments. I'm not sure if any of you are our next-door neighbor. This has been a voice of the city. You wouldn't like some of their comments. I'm not sure if any of you are, but please look at it. You truly would not like what's being said on Next Door Neighbor about the City Council. I counted over 500 violations. Did every single one of these variants pull a permit? We know the answer. Many of us didn't realize we had to pull a permit. We wanted to improve our parkways and make them drought tolerant. We were told to do this years ago. By the city, by the state, and many residents changed their parkways. There needs to be a standard for all residents, not just some. So many homes are not in compliance as stated on this list of violations you sent us. The playing field needs to be the same for all residents in our city. Just driving here to this meeting today, I counted another 50 to 60, no matter what street you go down. The city should not rely on neighbors or whistleblowers. This is not the right. The city needs to take responsibility if needed parkways are, if responsibility of the parkway is the city or is it us? I hope you understand how frustrating this is for homeowners who care about our home, our yard, and our neighbors and safety on our parkways. This permit you require resembles an HOA fee, a homeowners association fee. Is this what our city is coming to? We already pay over 10% for taxes. Our streets are in disrepair. It's embarrassing when friends come to my city to visit and say, you have a beautiful city, but except your streets are cracked, not paved, tripping hazards, and I see these as patients in my emergency room all the time. For years, I used my Glendale for street and safety hazards. I stopped after I was told by multiple city workers they can't deviate if it is not on their work order. So if there is a hole next to another pothole, which is a picture of what you have in front of my home, they can't patch it. Or if they do come and patch it, they put asphalt on it. And then you wait a couple months and you do it again. I have requested an extension on my violation and will be sent one by the city. I've read this violation. And violations, for those of you that haven't read it lately, the following material are prohibited in the parkway. Non-living materials more than 6 inches in height. Plant material that contains needles, spines, stickers, thorns, or poisonous to touch plants. Gravel, small loose rocks, or wood chips, mulch. Artificial turf. Any items that obstruct vision, create a traffic hazard, blocks a fire hydrant. But you can try to get a deviant and get a variance. You have to apply for a permit. Something's not right with this. Our city is a beautiful city. And I know that some of you on the city council probably got citations. Or maybe you didn't because you didn't have a whistleblower. The fact that your neighbors or somebody that isn't happy walks the city, turns you in, that is not right. It is, when you think of all the time you just spent talking about this donation to Armenia, which I'm all about donations. I have been to Armenia. I have done so much for them, and our city is that. It is our city. We need to protect our city. I have neighbors, old people that have come and knocked on my door and said, we are afraid. We don't know what to do. Senior citizens that know me are knocking on my door. Firefighters have come and knocked on my door because they know I'm not afraid to sit here and say, take time. Give everybody that you just sent these violations out, give them an extension automatically. Everybody got the same violation, separate days. The city's working with us. I've worked with Ani, I've worked with Tom. They're willing to work with us. But we need for you to work with us and say, wait a minute, we've got a problem. Everything that we're not allowed is in our city. There's pine trees, you know, everything, there's cactus. The gravel that you see in that picture, I did that. There's not a tripping hazard. I'm willing to put plants in, which means I have to pay to put a drip system back in. Something's not right with this. And I really hope you take time to really look into this and make some decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Beers, maybe someone from the city management office can discuss.
Sure, we'll follow up with Ms.
She talked
Sumner.
about several different issues, but a lot of it involves extension of time and compliance and things like that.
We will reach out, and as you know, this item was before the City Council a few months ago, and it was rediscussed, and no changes were made at the time, but we will most definitely contact Ms. Sumner.
Next speaker is Lynette Bell. Lynette.
Well, could I just go back a minute? So on the Parkway issue, I don't know what was discussed, I wasn't here, but anything that's drought tolerant and safe for safety personnel and other people in the neighborhood, I mean, I think that should go whether it's rock or what it is.
Drought tolerant plantings are allowed in the public right-of-way. It just depends on how much of the public right-of-way in the parkway is in that area. And so it's 50% has to be plantings, live materials. And so we work with our residents, as you all know, in terms of giving suggestions and working with our residents. And again, we will reach out to see what kind of extension is needed from Ms. Sumner.
Anahid Dermagurdichian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members and staff. This is in regards to the AT&T Mobility Wireless Telecommunication Facility encroachment permit. As you guys remember, I was here last week and I expressed my concern about the harms that this will cause to our kids. I have two kids who go to Toll Middle School and Hoover High School. And two of these poles one of them will be right next to Toll and the other will be right next to Mark Keppel, which is all three schools. All the kids will be exposed to this microwave radiation. I understand that, Mr. Imrani, you approved this project, I guess, August 20th. And my question to you is, would you like to have one of these towers next to your residence? How would you feel about that? And I also found out the cost to appeal to this is $2,000 per pole. How can we afford to appeal this? Will there be a waiver to this cost? I mean, can I afford to spend $4,000 to appeal for these two poles that will be next to our schools? And I'm also here to request that you guys will give us a study session to bring experts to explain the harms that these towers will cause to our kids' health. We just spent talking about taking all these safety measures to prevent our kids from accidents, talking about how to make them safe, crossing the crosswalks and all that. And my question to you guys is, why are we not worried about their health? Putting up these towers next to the schools and having them exposed to these radiations the whole time that they're in school. Not only the kids, the staff, and also the neighbors. And my question is also, I understand for every project, the city sends this notification to residents for the 500 feet radius. I've done a project recently, and I know how that works. But my question is, there are thousands of students who will be affected by this, and why the parents were not informed? GUSD has not informed us. I called the schools, I asked the principals, and they say that we never got permission from the GUSD to notify the parents. My question is, there's so many parents that they live outside of this 500 feet radius. How would they know about this project to come and appeal? To have a chance to come to the hearing and oppose to this. This was done during summer when all the kids were not to school and the parents were not there. They did not see those small signs, so they did not know about this to come and voice their concerns. And I have no way of letting the parents know. The only way I could tell is to let my friends know or the parents that I knew. But there's no way for me to communicate with a lot of parents. And this was really not fair. And I understand you approved this project just recently. And most of the people who live in that 500 feet radius haven't even received the letter. So they don't have even time to appeal to this. By the time they get this letter, it's too late to do anything, if they can afford the cost. So my question is, the final question is, what the City Council will do, how they can help us. And what's the next step? What can we do?
If you conclude, we may give you a brief response, but we can't get into a back and forth. All right, have you concluded?
Yes.
Okay. This is a very highly regulated field, and it's not a simple answer to tell you at this meeting what we can do and what we can't do. May I suggest that the city attorney, through the city manager's office, place something on our webpage. Can we do that? That really explains.
It's already on our rumor page.
Is it on there?
As of today, we have something on the rumor.
So we just posted something. It's a very complicated issue. There are limited decisions that the city can make, and on that webpage is the description of what the city can and cannot do. And I'll tell you, there's more that we cannot do than we can do. So please take a look at that. You're welcome to come back again next week. And I know you're meeting, not you, but several members of your group are meeting with the council members. We'll take those meetings and we can repeat the same information, but there's only so much that's available for us to do.
And I guess...
No, but you were done.
Okay.
So I have to move on to the next speaker.
Mr. Mayor, question for staff. Have we received a letter from GUSD?
We did receive a letter from GUSD. and that letter was received, I don't remember, 2 or 3 weeks ago, related to the hearing that was held, and GUSD wanted to go on record that they did not approve of the 5G cell sites.
So they
Yeah, I think they were opposed to a couple of them, the ones that are close to.
Closest to the school, to Keppel, Toll, and Hoover.
Okay, so you received the letter because there was a
Correct, we did.
question. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Irene de la Cerda.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and staff. I'm here this evening in opposition to Planned Parenthood opening another location here in Glendale. This is basic morality 101. To kill a child in its mother's womb is evil. It is an act of murder. Abortion is not about progressive values. There's nothing progressive about killing unborn babies. This is regression to pagan values. We are a Christian nation. This is grossly immoral. The feminists, they wear pink hats and pink jackets when they are protesting abortion rights. How appropriate is the color pink? For the color pink is the same color as the remains of the slaughtered babies, along with the other color, blood red. Abortion is evil. It is a result of a culture that has turned away from its biblical values and biblical foundation. If you hire a hitman to kill someone, that is called murder with special circumstances. Yet that is exactly what happens at Planned Parenthood every day. Women are not planning on becoming parents. They go there and they pay the abortionist to murder their child. Since you are tasked with the decision on whether to allow Planned Parenthood to open another abortion mill, you should remember that Margaret Sanger, the founder of the organization, founded it to weed out undesirable races from our society. Since Glendale is ethnically diverse, it is exactly the type of community that Planned Parenthood targets. Young college-age women are convinced that abortion is their only option. By falsely treating procreation as a negative health issue, Planned Parenthood doesn't just perform genocide on babies, but spends a huge amount of effort convincing the impressionable that murder is really medical treatment. The movie Unplanned showed us that Planned Parenthood is not a health care facility, but a ruthless profit machine that thrives on the destruction of human life. You are responsible for making decisions that are best for this community. And we ask you to please remember that when you vote for a new facility, you are making yourselves an accessory before the fact to the death of each child that is murdered. Don't be indifferent. Don't be lax in your duties. You be the voice for the unborn. I invite you all to see the movie Unplanned so you can see what Abby Johnson saw. It wasn't a blob of tissue. It was a baby. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Topadzikian.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Haik Topadzikian. I am representing the Cumberland Heights District. I received the same notice of violation for my parkway as my neighbors who spoke earlier. When I purchased my house, there was no irrigation system in the parkway, so it was drought tolerant. Some of the things that we need to consider is that these violations are just standard. It's the same violations that are sent to me and other of my neighbors. It's causing fear in the neighborhood. People are running and buying little plants and planting plants that actually are destroying the beautification of the parkways that exist, just so they don't get these violations. Actually, I was gone to Israel and Armenia for a month, so this is almost 25 days old, and I have to repair this in the next 15 days, which I would request extension, which I'll contact the inspector tomorrow. But these type of violations, I think, they're causing fear in the neighborhoods that are established, and people are actually causing fear, and people are reporting their neighbors into that the parkways aren't right. So there needs to be some type of improvement in how people can get help and get support and how to do the things the right way. Because what we've been told is you have to be drought tolerant, you have to not use water, but then we're getting these violations. So there's not a good community outreach or effect that is allowing people to do the right thing. So I just wanted to bring that concern. Hopefully the city can work with the residents to alleviate these concerns, because doing this in 30 days, doing extra costs if there's no irrigation, it's a big burden on the residents of Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Mahalia Jean-Pierre.
Hello. Hi. My name is Mahalia Jean-Pierre. I'm 23. I'm a musician, a painter, and a single mom of those two beautiful boys in the back. When I first came to LA, I actually was leaving my parents' home because of their strict religious beliefs, because I had a child out of wedlock. So with nowhere to go, I came to LA with my ex-boyfriend and my oldest son. From there, my journey was very tumultuous. We were camping in a tent on Venice Beach, homeless. There was drug abuse, loneliness, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, and a lack of financial stability. I'm telling you all this not so we can throw a pity party. I'm telling you this to show you what I've overcame and what it took for me to get where I am. I stand before you today, healed, sober, whole, a good mom, and in stable housing with financial security. So what does this have to do with Planned Parenthood? I believe that Planned Parenthood is not actually helping our communities as much as it is hurting our communities. We should be taking steps towards prioritizing the adoption process and starting a family if that woman chooses, and also building stronger, healthier communities, not abortion. And it's our responsibility to do so. When I was homeless, the first step I had to take to get stable was stay at transitional housing. So I asked around, and I was connected to a place called His Nesting Place in Long Beach. They provided a home for us, and what they do is they provide homes for pregnant women who are considering abortion. We had a warm bed, warm food, clothing, access to job resources, help going back to school, and a community, and clothing too. They provide a solution to the financial crisis a lot of women find themselves in when they realize they're pregnant. They provide a solution to family issues and housing issues people may have, or anything that prevents you from believing that you can take care of your own child and keep your baby. I already had my son Hawk with me, and I wasn't even pregnant at the time, so they made a very big exception with us staying there. It was a blessing, and I learned a lot. There were about 10 pregnant women there who had all decided not to get an abortion because of this place. We had our own room, and we were extremely blessed. And if you chose adoption, they would essentially hold your hand and walk you through the process. And you had a choice of a couple different agencies, sometimes up to 3 different families to choose from. And there's a thing called open adoption where you can stay in touch with your child and have visits and see your child. There was even a woman able to pump breast milk and bring it to her newborn daughter's new family for them to use. This community was so important in me believing that I could raise my children on my own. I have no family in California, I'm not married, and I chose life. I chose life when I was homeless. I chose life before I knew if it would actually work out. I chose life before I knew if I had the guts to do this. But this may have turned out a lot differently if Planned Parenthood was in my neighborhood, advertising and targeting me and close to my location. Women are choosing abortion at staggering rates all over the country right now because they're simply not being told that they can do it. They're not being encouraged. They're not being pointed in the right directions to the resources that already exist for them to provide for their kid and for them to realize they can do it. I stand before you today a living, walking testimony of the fact that it is possible. And if I can do it having gone through everything that I mentioned at the beginning, then so can the next woman. It has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with any of that type of stuff. It has to do with the fact that abortion is not birth control, it's not health care, and it's being advertised as such. The funding for a building like Planned Parenthood could easily go towards somewhere like his nesting place, the place that I stayed. It could easily just be given to them. Or another business that provides health care and preventative birth control, but not abortion. We can be hopeful for our futures, even when the unexpected happens. God does have a plan. We can no longer sit on the sidelines. In closing, we don't have to agree on everything, but we can agree that adoption is a better option and can be prioritized in our city. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Thiago da Costa.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Thiago da Costa. Thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here today as a concerned citizen regarding plans for a Planned Parenthood clinic here in Glendale. I strongly oppose the opening of such an operation here in Glendale. Planned Parenthood is an organization that carries out abortions. And abortions are terrible acts against the most basic of human rights, which is the right to life. Let's not mince words. An abortion is a cowardly murder of a baby, the killing of a human being, a despicable act. Yet, a lot of people in this country seem to think it's okay to kill a human at an early stage of growth. They act as if age makes a baby less human than a child or an adult. It seems there is a process of dehumanization of human fetuses in the justification for abortions. This must stop. Supporters of Planned Parenthood talk a lot about a person's right to choose whether to have a baby or not, but the right to choose is in no way more important than the right to life. The right to live is brutally being destroyed at the hands of doctors who mercilessly kill babies at these clinics. If you know anything about how abortions are done, you know calling them brutal is an understatement. In my opinion, the name Planned Parenthood should be changed, because when you kill a child, you're actually not only committing murder, but you are preventing parenthood. So I would suggest the folks running this terrible organization to come clean and stop playing word games. They are in the business of eugenics. They are destroying parenthood and not planning it. The mothers in this messy abortion business seem to have their right to life protected, as do the doctors, as do all of us. But it seems that the babies have been thought to be less than human and not deserving of protection. This is a shameful and, if I may say, evil state of affairs. A defenseless, innocent baby in the womb is the ultimate victim of Planned Parenthood clinics around America. I'm here today to raise my support for these unknown babies who are having their rights trampled upon, who are being killed for no good reason. I would like to see Glendale as a place where fetuses can be born and grow to be children and adults. I would like to see a Glendale where fetuses can have the chance to experience life as I have been able to do and as all of us here have been able to do. And that means saying no to abortion. I support every baby's right to life and ask you to do the same. I'm here today to ask you to be merciful and protect babies and help them have a chance at life in Glendale, as opposed to having them become biological refuse to be discarded into the trash cans of your local abortion clinic. So I would urge the mayor and the council to reject the application for this organization to set up shop here. Please say no to Planned Parenthood in Glendale. Tell them no, thank you very much. You can go conduct your business elsewhere. We stand for life here in Glendale. Paraphrasing Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, to say that there is too many babies is like saying there's too many flowers. Glendale City Council, let's plant more flowers in Glendale instead of continuing this hidden Holocaust. Blood is flowing in these clinics. Let's stop the killing. Glendale City Council, to sum up, please take steps towards protecting life, honoring life, and protecting the most innocent amongst us. Say no to Planned Parenthood in Glendale. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mike Simka?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Simka. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council and staff for allowing me to speak here. So I'd like to continue on the same topic that the last few people have spoken on, and that's the Planned Parenthood, the new facility that they want to establish here in Glendale. So most kids grow up in a household where they learn about the Holocaust first. I grew up with in a household, Armenian mother and Slovakian father. So I learned about the Armenian genocide about the same time as I learned about the Holocaust, and it was something that I learned through the extensive family, through my stepmother. And just about every weekend there was a wedding or there was a funeral, and family was just so important. It was so important. It was very different than the other part of my family. It was something that I grew to respect. It was something that I was inspired by. And I know in families we respect and we protect our children. And Planned Parenthood is doing something that's the opposite of that. They say that they do other things, that they provide other services, but they're an abortion factory. All of their money, all of the significant funds that they get is for abortion. Sure, they might pass out a few condoms here and there, but they're not making money from that. They're making money from killing babies. And so I ask you guys, I ask all of you, family people, to look at it for what it is and to just say no to this, and let's put an end to it. Because the institutionalized killing of people, whether they be babies or old people with euthanasia or any type of institutionalized killing, systematic killing, is something we absolutely must stand against in all cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabrina Melora?
Good evening. My name is Sabrina Melora. I'm 12 years old, and I'm here today for my 4th time to talk about why I do not want Planned Parenthood in Glendale. My first time here, I talked about how having Planned Parenthood in Glendale could affect kids' education. The second time, I talked about the profit they made. And the third time, I talked about the lies they tell their clients. This time, I'm going to talk about how having Planned Parenthood come in Glendale is going to affect the new generation, my generation. Planned Parenthood is just disrupting the bond between a mother and her child. They're telling girls my age that they should be involved in sexual relationships because it's normal and healthy, even if their parents don't agree. That means they will be worrying about that instead of focusing on school and learning things that will help them get a job and earn money for food and shelter. And most girls will not share this with their parents. But that also means their parents won't be able to support them. It's scary to think that one of my friends could be taken by one of the school staff to an appointment with Planned Parenthood and could become sick, depressed, or even suicidal. My friend could even die during an abortion procedure. But since schools have been told by Planned Parenthood to teach their staff to make sure that parents never know, my friend's parents would have never had the chance to talk to their daughter, to listen to their daughter, to be able to be there to support their daughter. Instead, they are lied to. Most girls instead will assume that their parents will what their parents will think. So by keeping Planned Parenthood out of Glendale, you are not only saving the lives of the unborn, but the ones who are already born. You will be protecting families and your community. So please do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Shenandoah Fasano?
Good evening. And to all the city council members and the mayor. I oppose Planned Parenthood from building in Glendale because if God again, created each one of us. He calls us his beloved children. That means we are able to love and to be loved unconditionally. And by having Planned Parenthood here, we're not loving these children without conditions. And it dehumanizes our dignity and our right to be who we are called to be and for God's plan in our lives. And the fact that a human being has dignity, self-esteem, all its talents and gifts, all its strengths and weaknesses, everything that God has given it from conception, and to take it all away, it's almost like, then why create life in the first place? Then why do one of us, why should everyone here exist if we're just going to be taken away when God so knitly put us together with everything for his plan and for his purpose for a reason? And to take that away, you're just taking away the unconditional love and mercy that God really has for you, and stripping yourself of what you can really receive, of that emptiness and that void that you're trying to fill with worldly things like sex and pleasure, and those things are only temporary fixes. It doesn't heal the wounds that are in our heart that we experienced as a child. What really heals is when we allow God in to enter our hearts and to really make us whole. Because if he created us to be whole and to be holy and to be perfect as he is, then we have a purpose, a plan, and we can use everything that he has given us to the fullest. And to give a right for those little babies to do the same. I encourage you to please say no to having Planned Parenthood be here, because then we can have a whole community, a healing community, one that nurtures life and its creation and supports one another and loves one another as God loves us, and that we can experience that love that God truly has at the moment of conception. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Melora?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members and staff of City Council. As you know, I'm here as well to voice my opposition to Planned Parenthood opening offices in Glendale. My understanding is that they are looking at a property at 120 South Glendale Avenue, and they want to open a 7,000 square foot facility. Now, as I mentioned last week, Planned Parenthood announced that they are opting out of Title X funding. This clearly makes it obvious that they are an abortion facility first and foremost. The two criteria that were asked by recipients of Title X funds were asked to meet were that they would not refer for abortion, or that they would keep abortion services separate from the Title X services. So in opting out of this, they clearly made their stance very obvious, and it's very clear that they do provide abortion. When I was listening to this young woman who's a single mom talk, I could imagine what you can do with that 7,000 square foot facility. That definitely would be a beautiful place for young mothers to come and receive the support that they need, so that they can be wonderful contributing members to this community. One of the things that we don't talk about when we talk about abortion is what happens to the babies that are taken out of the mother's womb. If we have a 7,000 square foot facility, chances are that there will most likely be chemical abortions as well as surgical abortions. Do you know what happens with the remains of a surgical abortion? Where are these baby body parts going to go? Are they going to be flushed into the Glendale water system? Do you have a company that has already been retained for disposing of these baby body parts? That's something that doesn't really come up very often, but it definitely is something that would be outrageous to think that these baby parts could be flushed into our water system. And I definitely want you to consider what that means. But if you allow a facility to have surgical abortions, you will be dealing with the disposal of these baby body parts. So I ask you to really think about that. And again, I'm going to urge you to say no to Planned Parenthood. Use that 7,000 square foot facility to do good, to bring joy to this community, to support women and tell them motherhood is not a disease. It is not something that you should avoid. But you can go to college, you can have a job, you can do all of these things and be a mother. That makes you stronger. Killing your child because it's an inconvenience or it's the wrong time in your life to have that child is not telling a woman that she is worthy of all of the things that she is worthy of. So again, I urge you, say no to Planned Parenthood and say yes to something that will build your community up into a thriving community. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Murdat Yasayan.
Good evening, Glendale City Council. I'm going to keep it pretty brief. I attended the Glendale Well-Being Block Party this past Saturday, and I thought that it was a really wonderful event. It was a pleasure to see you, Mayor Najarian, there, as well as City Council Member Devine as well. As a proponent of health and nutrition my entire life, as well as being an elementary physical education teacher, I found it a breath of fresh air that the City of Glendale is taking the initiative to spearhead this particular initiative, and I hope to see more events like this in the near future. Thank you very much. And it was also a pleasure to hear that by the library they're making a garden as well. So I absolutely love it. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Lenore Solis.
Thank you, members of City Council. As a Catholic Christian, I am here also to implore. I know that as a City Council, as long as whoever wants to move into the city with their business, as long as they follow all of the guidelines, just like you can't stop me from overeating, you can't stop them from moving in. But we're hoping that if we reach out in the community, the broader community, here we have this facility right across the street from our municipal buildings that is going to be a very, very large Planned Parenthood facility. And I think it would be truly unfortunate that in this community, which I have lived in since I was 12 years old, and I know it to be a predominantly Christian environment here and very pro-family, that it would be truly unfortunate that we would have a facility that is really essentially with their Title 10 funds killing babies. You know, women have so many options. I mean, you can put something in your arm and you won't get pregnant for 5 years. So, I mean, if you're going to engage in activities that might lead to pregnancy and you don't want to have a baby, then use whatever you can use so that you won't have to worry about killing your child. And it's such a blessing that we live in this wonderful, diverse community. And yes, we do have an abortion clinic here. It's on Arden, and they've been there for many, many years. And I know that many Christians in the community go and pray at that facility. We have for many, many years. And it just seems shameful that here we are talking about affordable housing, we're talking about mental health issues in our communities, and homeless issues, and to think that despite all of that going on, we're going to have this prime location used as a facility to destroy the unborn. And when you destroy the unborn, you're also destroying a part of the humanity of the mom that unfortunately has been forced many times, forced because of economics, because of family pressures, because of societal mores, to get rid of the norms that they didn't think about. And you know, sometimes when we're standing in front of the abortion clinic on Arden, you would see men drive up in their late model, beautiful cars, opening the door and pushing the young lady out. I saw moms that I knew were members of my church dragging their daughters into that clinic. And usually the first week of the month is when there are more abortions, because that's when people tend to have more money. And it's just, you know, I just feel like it's such a victimization of women, a lot of times, you know, by men. and a lot of cultural issues involved in that. And it's truly, truly unfortunate. And it would just be so shameful if we would have to have a facility like that right here in a prime location of our city when we could use that location for so many. Maybe you can reach out to whoever owns that facility. Maybe we could find money somewhere to do something better. I don't know who owns it. I don't even want to know who owns it. I just pray that parents should look at the educational material that are being taught to our children starting from kindergarten. A lot of issues dealing with sexual mores and different things that I bet a lot of families are unaware of what is being taught to your children in public school. You know, it's fortunate for those families who are able to spend the money to send their children to a private school. Then they're not dictated by the state of California and federal rules and regulations regarding the education funds. But until parents are made aware of what is being taught to their children and the damage that is done to women, if you ever get on YouTube and watch the videos of women who have had abortions, many times because somebody forced them into having the abortion. You know, I just watched a Dave Chappelle segment today, and he talked about, hey, he's all for abortion. If you want to have an abortion, I don't care, have it. You know, and then he says, but you know what, but if you're going to have my kid, for sure I want you to have, I'm pro-abortion big time. And a lot of times it is the men that are pressuring women to have an abortion. Just like a lot of times women succumb to men and end up engaging in sexual relations, you know, that are unplanned, and that's why they end up getting pregnant. So I just pray that our community will reach out to all of you who have the power to make these decisions, and hopefully we could find a much better community-oriented use for that large facility right across the street from our municipal buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. Do we have any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.